Hello and welcome to the Sensibly Speaking podcast. This is Chris Shelton, newly graduated and certified a master's graduate from the University of Salford. I get to announce that as it is brand spanking fresh news that just happened this week. I am officially graduated from that program. I know we have all been waiting with bated breath on that, so I'm very, very happy to be completed with that, and I am now Chris Shelton, MSc. Yay, I have a title that actually means something in the real world. I'm a real boy now, so as you can see. Also, a first for this location that I am now in our new home and my new studio, I am doing a live interview with Katherine Olson. And Katherine is somebody who used to be a Sea Org member, used to be a Scientologist, and we are going to do her story. We're going to do one of those kind of interviews this week, and but we're going to do it here in studio because she is local here in Denver, and it's always fun to kind of do it live. I don't get to do this anywhere near enough, and I wish I had more opportunities to invite people into my studio space to do this. So you guys get this as a little treat this week. So, Katherine, I want you to tell us, just to kind of kick this thing off and stuff. You kind of, we're going to go through your story from beginning to end, I suppose. But let's start by telling everybody that you kind of just sort of took off in an unauthorized fashion. You didn't do what I did and jump through all the hoops.
I disappeared without a trace, no?
Right.
I really did too. Like I was there in the morning and I was gone that afternoon.
Right. Exactly. So where and when was it that you took off from?
So that was last year, 2021. And I was in Columbus. And that's also part of the story of why Sea Org member was in Columbus. No, I wasn't a network. I was in Columbus with a lot of other Sea Org members, and we'll include that.
Yes, we're definitely going to
the whole story
build up to that. Yeah, because it's actually quite interesting how a whole gaggle of a murder of Sea Org members flew into Columbus. And
all basically arrived within the same week or so.
Yeah, a whole bunch of people. Yeah. So we'll cover that, but let's go ahead and go back to the beginning. Yeah. And so, how did you get involved in Scientology in your life?
So I was living in Silverton, Oregon, actually. Mm-hmm. And this was 1992. And my sister had just gone to Portland to start going to college up in Portland. And she happened to get someone grabbed her off the street and got her into the Oregon Portland. Mm. And she took a personality test, and then she bought Dianetics, and she's like, wow, this is cool. And she showed it to my mom. My mom's like, wow, this is cool. And then my mom reads Science and Survival and is like, oh my God, and decides that she's going to leave the guy that she was with for many years. Not my dad.
Your stepdad or
they were never married.
Step boyfriend.
Yeah, exactly. No relation.
Right.
He was actually a total psycho, so it was a good move on her part.
Okay.
So she decided she was going to leave him within like a day, and packed everything up in the car and grabbed me out of school, and we moved up to Portland.
Wow.
And we got some help from the staff there, and of course they're all very nice, and we stayed with some staff. And then we both joined staff right away. And I was in HCO, which is whatever, if you want to explain that or not.
Well, yeah, Hubbard Communications Office, basically hiring, firing, and justice stuff.
Yeah, so I was there. I was on reception. I did different jobs in HCO for like 2 years. And then there were...
For 2 years?
Yeah, I was there from 1992 to 94.
Okay, and when you arrived in Portland and your mom had dumped this guy and you were thumbs up on that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you thought he was nuts.
Totally. He was a complete psycho.
So this was a feather in the cap for Scientology and for Dianetics because it had this positive influence.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts about it? Like, did you read Dianetics, or what was your...
I actually didn't read Dianetics until about 15 years later.
Right. Me too.
I didn't read it. I tried to read it one time, And I was very confused. I was like, I don't understand this, because my first introduction was through Scientology, which is you learn about all this stuff in Scientology, and you learn how you're at cause and you're doing this and that, and then you read Dianetics, and it's like it's all your reactive mind, and I'm like, whatever, okay, whatever. I didn't
Right,
really,
get your story straight.
Yeah, exactly. And also, before we joined staff, and we were just going on course before we joined staff and moved up there and everything. I was personally very skeptical about it. I was like, I don't know if I like this, Mom. Because I was interested in studying psychology, and my mom was like, no, don't get into that. And she wasn't pushing that at all. She didn't want me to do that. So she was like, no, I want you to try this. So I'm like, okay. So then I took a course, and I liked it. But I liked the people more than I liked what I was doing.
Right.
And I was not that interested in it. And then I saw the art book, and I was very interested in that because I'm an artist. So that kind of got me going. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. And so that was your first 2 years there, getting kind of acclimated and being a staff member. And now Portland back in 92, 94 time period had a day and a foundation, which is your evening and weekend schedule shift. And then there was a celebrity center in Portland back then too.
Yeah, that's right.
Which one were you at?
I was at Portland Foundation.
Okay, so you were doing a nights, weekends kind of schedule. And then were you working during the day? Or?
No, I wasn't working, and I actually decided I was going to drop out of school, which was a very stupid move. I was 3 years away from graduating. I was like a sophomore. I was in my sophomore year.
Got it.
So for whatever reason, I decided.
And they were all cool with that.
Yeah, we somehow got the agreement that I was going to leave school, and they're like, okay, and let me go. And wow. To this day, I'm like, why did I do that? That was really dumb. I didn't get a GED or anything, which was really not smart.
Okay. So they weren't encouraging you to do that, but they didn't stop you from doing that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is your thing.
Exactly.
And your mom was like, sure.
My mom was like, okay, fine, whatever you want to do type thing. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. I got it. So basically just nobody was getting in your way.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you carried on there for 2 years, you said.
And backtrack just a little bit. When we first started, my mom was trying to get some money to do the Purif, and she was trying to get it from her parents. And her dad was like, what is this? And he went to his priest, because they're Catholic, right? He went to his priest and got a bunch of black PR.
i.e. the truth.
Yeah, from the get this, from the Cult Awareness Network.
Oh yeah, now this was back before Scientology
which is now owned
had purchased
by Scientology.
It. Exactly.
Yeah, I remember when that happened. I remember when I heard about that. I was like, oh wow, okay.
Well, it was actually not too long after that.
Yeah.
The Cult Awareness Network, guys, if you don't know, if you look that up online, you're going to a website now that is owned by the Church of Scientology. They literally bought it out because they didn't like priests and ministers and family members contacting the Cult Awareness Network and finding out the real deal with Scientology.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay. So your grandfather is like, what?
Yeah. So we had to do a whole, handling on that.
Okay.
That was when I was first introduced to the wonderful technology of, potential trouble source. And I read this. I'm like, Mom, they're saying we're trouble. I'm like, what is this? I'm not trouble.
Exactly. But that SP grandfather of yours.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Did that end up handling? Did he chill, or did that?
Yeah, they actually chilled out.
Okay.
They chilled out for a very long time. So
right.
It didn't really come up. It came up a little bit again here and there, but not anything serious.
Okay. So in coming back up again, then it wasn't the case that the handling was he was actually cool with Scientology. He just shut up about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Because I found out, of course, last year when I talked to my grandmother in quite some length, because I went up to Minnesota and saw family for like a month after I came out, and I got a chance to like really talk to her. And she was like, yeah, I knew it was all bullshit, basically. I knew you weren't happy, and she just didn't say anything.
Yeah. Well, because you disconnect. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing, and we hit on early on after I got out was the whole, the irony, really the tragic irony of the fact that all the Scientologists think their family and friends are all cool because they're not nattering or complaining to them about it anymore, when in fact they're all just waiting for the person to come to their senses, you know. But
exactly.
everything's
they don't
handled.
want to upset them or whatever. They don't want to go there.
That's
so,
right.
No,
but they actually are all in a PTS situation.
Yeah, right.
You know?
It's true.
Right?
It's totally true.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a tragic irony, you know.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so what happened after 2 years?
Okay, so there was, of course, with any Class 5 org, there's, Sea Org, come and go projects. You get phone calls. You talk to people. You start getting to know people. I got to know people from Bridge. I used to call all the time, and people from the CLO that used to call, and I was like, wow, I really like these people. And it was like this cool thing is there's these people calling from LA, from management, and it was very cool.
Oh, that's interesting.
And,
my experience was a little different as a
really?
staff member.
Really?
Yeah. Well, we were, Santa Barbara, where I worked at that time.
Yeah.
Was a small podunk place like Portland, right?
Yeah, Portland was totally.
Yeah.
The DSA was like in tears every month because of trying to handle the landlord on the rent. And
right. Yeah.
really,
a lot of bailouts,
yeah,
et cetera.
It was really bad. And
exactly.
I don't know that it's. I mean, they have like a brand new, beautiful building now and everything, but I don't know that they're doing that much better.
They are not. No, the place is actually really super empty these days. But I was actually in Portland a few months ago.
Oh, wow.
Dropped by the org, and I didn't go in, but I gave them a little salute from outside. But it was really sad to see the same faces that I had seen when I was a Sea Org member going on projects and missions to Portland, which I did frequently.
Yeah.
And just seeing the same people just slugging it out, you know. But no, my experience with management was they would call and they had these very tense, terse, sometimes angry voices, get me the ED. And sometimes it was, get me the ED now, right? And, when things were stressful or money was tight or stats weren't going well. And management, I came to learn when I became management, wasn't even supposed to be calling into the orgs.
No, they totally weren't.
Right?
And the COCLO, like the
head of management.
She was calling every day for the ED.
Exactly.
Every day. So I knew her.
Exactly. Me too. Well, when I arrived into when I arrived in management in 1995, she would sit at her desk permanently. She had two screens, one with statistics and one with the telexes she was typing, the orders that she was sending to the orgs. Yeah. And her head was almost permanently cocked in an angle because she sat with a phone cradled here all day long, rotating through the orgs, calling them all and screaming bloody murder at the EDs.
That was Karen Havas, right?
That was actually Vicky Shantz when I arrived.
That was Vicky. Yeah, that was much later. Karen Havas
was the one then. Yeah. She ended up in Las Vegas. Karen Havas.
She ended up in Las Vegas?
Yeah, she ended up running Las Vegas for a while, and then she ended up out.
Oh, I didn't.
Well, no, I think she went back to FB.
She was in FB for a while.
That's right.
Now.
That's right.
She had like a major medical issue a few years ago, and I haven't seen her at all.
That's right.
I think she may have even had a stroke or something.
Oh, I didn't know about that part.
Yeah, it was something very, very major. Like she wasn't even in any of the birthing buildings or anything.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, anyway, so you were impressed by these people.
Yeah, I was impressed. Yeah. And when there was Sea Org members that came on project, I was always like talking to them and interested in what they were doing and everything. Yeah. And actually there was two recruitment projects that came that didn't get me, but they were like sort of trying to recruit me, but they didn't really try hard enough.
Yep.
And then actually Real LaPlane, do you remember Real LaPlane?
Oh, yes.
He came with the COCLO on a recruitment project. And the way they used to do it back then, which I guess they still do this sort of, which is they have like a recruit, like they hold an event for the org, like to recruit for the org. And then out of that, they would like recruit for the Sea Org as well.
Yep.
So I ended up talking to him and he was just like, well, so I want you to sign your contract. I was like, okay. So that was my recruit cycle went. I was like, all right, okay.
And so now by signing that contract, we're referring here to the Sea Org billion-year contract of commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I had seen before and I was familiar with, but I hadn't like put my name on it yet. And he was just like, okay, I want you to sign. I was like,
all right. Just because people talk about this all the time and it's a point of interest for the general public, right? What were your views? Like, what were your beliefs at that point, signing that piece of paper? Did you really believe, excuse me, you were committing to 1 billion years?
I did,
Or did you think
and
this was a lifelong thing, or what?
yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. I wasn't like it wasn't fully like hadn't fully accepted like the whole billion-year thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really. I think I didn't really think that much about that part of it. But I was like, okay, well, this is a lifelong thing, and I like these people, and I like the subject, and okay,
Here we go.
and it's funny because it was mostly the people. It's mostly the people that I like because the people
Mhm.
are very inviting. They're very nice. They're very like they include everybody. You know, they're very easy to talk to, and you know, me being a little like introvert through high school and my school years and everything, I was like, wow, I really like these people.
Yeah.
So that was really what got me.
Got it. Yeah. I remember Sea Org members coming around to Santa Barbara, and they were always more business-like and
Yeah.
sort of like on a mission, sort of efficient, sort of,
Yeah.
this is what we're going to do now, right? And
Yeah.
I liked that because I thought it embodied a more productive, you know, sort of spirit of
Yeah.
let's actually get this job done. Let's
Yeah.
actually work. Let's do this, because in Santa Barbara, it's Slack Central, right?
Yeah.
And the staff were working, but they weren't like running and
Yeah.
you know, sweating or and any of that.
Yeah.
And it was a constant struggle for income. And of course I was a supervisor, so I was in the classroom a lot. But it just didn't feel like everybody was really on the same page doing the work. And you kept hearing and reading that, you know, on policy orgs boom.
Yeah.
And we're not booming.
Yeah, exactly.
So you start feeling, at least for me, I started feeling a little bit of a contempt for my fellow staff members, even though they were my friends, really almost
Yeah.
my family in so many ways. But I kind of, I wish these guys would work harder. I wish they'd get more on purpose, get more on the ball.
I started seeing, you know, noticing that like CF was a mess in the basement. And I'm just like, why don't we use these files and contact some people? And nobody ever used CF. back then.
Exactly.
It was a total disaster.
That's right. Exactly. Or why aren't we, you know, and I didn't want to go do it, but, you know, how come we're not getting more people out in the street, you know, pulling people in and all those things you hear about or read about, and we weren't doing those things, right?
Yeah.
So I agree. I could see how, you know, for me as a staff member, you know, the Sea Org epitomized a higher level of dedication. And,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, and I tried multiple times too to get arrived in the Sea Org. You know, I was on.
Yeah, it took me a little while.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how I finally got arrived is they used to do, this is when they were still doing the thing of if you got pregnant while you were in the Sea Org, they would send you out to a class 5 org
Right.
with your kid,
Right.
with your spouse and your kid.
They-
Unless you got an abortion, then that was the other option.
That's right. We used to call them baby boomers.
Yeah, baby boomers. That's right. So Rial was in senior HCO. He was over that whole thing and
Yep.
decided where people were going. So he just took a couple and just sent them to replace
Portland.
me. And that's how I finally got arrived, because I was trying to recruit somebody for months and months. I couldn't recruit anybody.
Right.
I couldn't get
Me too.
anybody to join. And I
Exactly.
tried really hard and it just didn't go anywhere. And I was like,
Right.
"Oh, I'm never going to go."
Yeah, I was too technically trained
Oh, yeah.
because I was.
You were a
I was
supervisor,
Key to Life
right?
Soup.
Yeah.
Purify C. I was running the HTC. I got to be the tech sec, and so
Yeah.
They when they finally got me out, it was guy came and Kurt Hahn.
Oh, Kurt Hahn got, oh,
He was the
wow.
tech aide
Wow.
and or the training and
He's
services
a flag
aide.
now.
Yeah.
That was the last time I
Yeah, Kurt was always a good guy, but he wanted me to be the tech aide for West US. He didn't
Yeah.
have one, and I was highly trained and all that. So he came and arranged 3 people to
Oh, wow.
take over and finally get me out, because nobody else would ever do that.
Yeah.
Nobody else had the authority
yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, no.
You know, because you got to do this whole replacement thing,
Yeah,
and,
they have to be
there's
trained and
politics
everything, yeah.
involved and
Yeah.
all that. Anyway, but please continue. So you admired these people. You thought they had their shit together.
Yeah.
And then you finally got to be one of them.
Yeah, then I
What-
joined and I
in
went
94?
Yeah, 94. That was April 94.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, 1 year and 1 month before me.
Ah, wow.
Yeah,
That's funny.
that is.
So I went and I went straight to, I went to LA. I did my EPF and Raul was like, you have to be done in 10 days. Or he was going on project and he happened to get a message to me. He's like, you have to be done in 10 days. I'm like, okay. So then I somehow finished my EPF in 10 days. So,
pretty fast. Then, it usually takes a few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes months.
I think I did it in total. Like it was probably a little over 2 weeks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then I went straight to work with him in the HGB in senior HCO.
Okay. So this was the EPF over at.
Yeah, that was at PAC.
So it was at PAC.
Yeah, it was at PAC. At the
okay.
time.
So
it went back and forth over the years. Like they had one at the HGB for a little while.
Yeah.
For a few years, and then decided that wasn't really working and moved it back to PAC, and it sort of fluctuated.
Okay. All right. So you did it in PAC. So what was your impression arriving now? 1994, the PAC base was not the ruthless model of efficiency it is now. No. Things were a little slacker back then in some significant fashions. But what was your impression of the place? I
mean, I was impressed by it. I was, it was like all these Scientologists together in one place, all these York members. I'd never been to LA. I was just like, I was kind of electrified by the whole experience.
Right.
Because it was something totally new, big city, I'm like 17 away from my mom, whatever.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's only 17 years old right at this 17, point. So this is more akin to the starry-eyed, wannabe actress arriving in Hollywood. And, look at how great it is.
Actually, somebody took me before I went on the EPF, somebody took me for a walk when I first arrived, like that day. Took me for a walk down Hollywood, and I was like, this place is weird.
It is. It is.
This is very weird. Okay, I guess this is Hollywood. All right.
Yep. Good times.
Yeah.
Okay, so good. So you finish your EPF, and then you end up. So the PAC base, for those of you, just to clarify here, PAC base is the big blue buildings. Everybody's seen pictures of those buildings. Big Scientology sign. That's where I worked for 17 years. But you did your EPF there, and then in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, about 2 miles down the road, there's a 13-story building.
That's 13 stories.
Which is called the Hollywood Guarantee Building, or the HGB. This was purchased in the early 90s and renovated and is owned by Scientology. And it's basically their international management building where, international management, the Office of Special Affairs International.
I actually did
other
renovations.
Offices.
I did renovations on OSA.
Oh, nice.
Because they were renovating OSA at the time I was in the EPF. I just remember that.
Nice.
And so I was there in the building a little bit doing
some of that work. Yeah. Okay. So that building is its own kind of organization, or a bunch of organizations in that building. They have their own mess and their own, galley, and they make the food and all that. So that's kind of its own entity. Yeah. And it is a senior position to the PAC base. The PAC base is sort of the Pacific area service orgs. It's for delivering Scientology. The HGB, where you ended up working, is about managing Scientology. No public go do services at the HGB. It's an administrative facility.
Yeah.
So what did you do there?
Then I was in what was called Senior HCO International, which is basically over all of the HCOs in the world. You have all the different con offices in the different areas, and they have that unit, and this was over all of those.
Okay.
And these days they don't take like raw people, like people just off the EPF, and just send them straight to management like that. They don't do that anymore.
Okay.
But at that time, that's what I was doing, and I was
right.
Like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, it's getting thrown in the deep end for sure.
Yeah, it totally.
Yeah, because Senior HCO International is the office that oversees basically what you could say the function-wise, all the hirings, right? All the personnel moves and transfers and firings and all that happens is ultimately approved by, I should say, Senior HCO International. Yeah. That's also where they have the highest levels of justice authority. So if somebody is getting declared suppressive, that submission, the approval for that ultimately happens at the Office of Senior HCO International, right? There's a guy who deals with that. And all of the communication systems and networks of Scientology are ultimately supposed to be kind of run or managed through Senior HCO.
That's right. So I was, and then I was told I was the Senior Training and Hatting Officer International.
Oh, wow. That was your first post.
That was my first post.
Wow. And I thought I had it rough as a continental A-Techade, but you have international.
And then on top of it, after a few months, I was also double hatted, like also given the post of Senior Routing Forums International.
Oh, boy.
Because they had just come out with these computerized, right? Routing forms, which I had to get printed and, out to every org and used in every org.
Right. Now, how many orgs were you running or were you overseeing, like, internationally? Because I had 34 in the West U.S.,
I think it was,
but internationally
160 or something.
160.
Yeah.
Okay.
Between 160 and 170, depending on like Dane Foundation, and I think it was somewhere around there.
Right, because that doesn't mean 160 different physical locations. Because as we mentioned, Portland and many, many other orgs have double shifts.
Yeah, that's right.
And each shift is considered a separate organization. So Portland, as a city, had 3 organizations in it. Portland Day, Portland Foundation, and Celebrity Center Portland. So so the numbers don't necessarily match up to physical locations, but just curious, how big was Scientology, right? It's about 160 organizations.
Yeah, exactly. It was like it was like 160.
Right.
Like
and from your memory of that, as you learned, because you in Senior HCO would be your bread and butter was the personnel and the lines and all of that. So did you ever have an accurate figure of, just how many staff there were?
Staff were like, I'm trying to remember. I was asked this before and I couldn't quite remember. I don't actually remember how many.
Fair enough. Do you remember orders of magnitude?
I mean, I remember there being at least, it was like 4,000 Sea Org members. I don't remember the exact number of staff.
Okay. I always sort of estimated it around the same number as the Sea Org, but that was just a kind of guesstimate on my part.
Like I think it's a lot less now.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I actually agree.
Yeah. Because they've reduced the amount of orgs.
Yeah.
There's just been various things where they open, like, they'll open up a new org and get people from like all over the country to come to this one area. And then it just and then a lot of them they can't do it. They're like, I don't have a job. I had to move. I had to give up all this stuff. And they're just like, no, I can't do it.
Yep.
So
that tends to be how it goes, one place after another after another. And that was all pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Kind of all bets are off with COVID now. I mean, things are as we've been going over, things are insane in Scientology.
Interesting after
exactly. And we're going to talk about that because she lived through some of it.
Things were interesting right before COVID too.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about that too. Exactly.
So then I was in Senior HCO until, I was on that post for like a year or so. And then somebody decided to put me on the area EPF for like a couple weeks. I don't even remember what happened. Oh no, I remember what happened. What happened was we had a new, get this. We had a new Dur-INR. Her name was Astra Woodcraft.
Oh my God.
She was the INR.
That is so funny.
Hi, Astra.
Astra Woodcraft. She's out now, folks.
Yeah. She actually like helped my mom quite a bit, I found out. But anyway.
Good.
So she was the new Dur-INR and she was like cracking down on things and whatever, right?
Yep.
And so she decided that, and there kept on there like this, like there was a certain time period where, I mean, probably a lot of the time people were not sleeping a lot. So you'd have people that were late a lot to post, right? And so she decided that anyone that was late would automatically go on the APF.
Oh, wow.
Just for being late.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's clarify. The area EPF is, are you talking about Cat B?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what you have in Scientology is you have an EPF where you get, it's like boot camp. But imagine in the military, any branch, that everybody gets in through boot camp. You get your ass kicked, you get your character broken down, you kind of learn what's what, you learn how to march and stuff like that. And you learn basically how to comply with orders, because that's important in the military.
You learn how to say yes, sir, to everybody.
Exactly. You do the same thing in the EPF when you go into the Sea Org. But imagine in the military that you screw up or are found unutilized or are in some fashion are not doing your job according to an inspector general or an authority who comes down and goes, yeah, you ain't cutting the slack, right? You're not cutting the mustard. We're putting you back in boot camp. Back you go. Because you didn't get it the first time, right? We're going to make you retread it. You're going to do it again. And that's what going back into Cat B, it's called a Category B EPF versus a Category A, which is your first run through. Yeah. Cat B is you screwed up or you were found unutilized, and we're going to make you do the boot camp again.
Yeah. And there was also all this in that level of management, you have all this confusion because you have like senior HCO, but then you have HCO for the base. So is senior HCO over HCO for the base, or is secure? Like it's so confused, and it's still confused.
Same in PAC, by the way. We had the exact same questions, because we had a senior HCO for the continental area.
Yeah.
And we had a senior HCO for the PAC base.
Yeah.
And they were two separate offices. And then you had the HCOs on the base. So which one's overseeing them? Are they West US or are they PAC?
Yeah.
And how does the management of this work? And how do they coordinate?
So who does the functions, the HCO functions for senior HCO? So sometimes it was like, oh yeah, HCO is over you guys and can tell you what to do. And sometimes not. It was like depending on...
But I'm senior HCO. How is the HCO guy?
Exactly.
What is all this?
I was really confused.
It is, and this is important in Scientology only because command lines and authority mean everything. I mean, who's senior to who is kind of an important question. Yeah. You'd think you'd have this kind of stuff sorted out, but I'm telling you, questions like this would come up all the time in Scientology.
It's totally crazy.
Yeah. And it was, so what? Okay, now I've talked at length about, working conditions and what shit was like in PAC and how kind of screwed it was. Day to day, what was it like at the HGB? You were there for a few years before you got busted that way. So what was it like? You mentioned not sleeping a lot.
Yeah, not sleeping a lot. I got very acquainted with staying not very late or not sleeping at all. And at first I was like, oh, this is cool. We're doing something super important. You know what I mean? I felt kind of like, oh. And then, well, over the years, I didn't feel like that anymore. Right. But at first, I was like, "Oh, this is so cool." But yeah, there was a lot of contention between people. There was a lot of yelling, screaming, which actually got better. Towards the end of when I was there, it actually got a little bit better.
That's good.
Towards the end, meaning a few years ago.
Okay.
not meaning towards the end of being in CHCO.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was like that. Yeah.
It was just a bit of a madhouse.
Yeah. It was a madhouse, and it was a lot of yelling for no apparent reason, but
yeah, it was a pretty daily occurrence.
And everything was an emergency, and everything was like now, and everything was a flap. Everything was like, yeah, exactly. So then I was on that post. So senior training handling officer / senior routing forms IC. And then, I got stuck on the REPF for like a few weeks. And then Real was like, oh, this is stupid. And he just took me off. Like I didn't graduate or anything. He was just like, you're done. Yep. Get back in uniform.
Yep.
So then I was doing that. And then I got sent, let's see, what was I doing? Oh, I actually got sent on a project for Incom for about a year. I was recruiting programmers.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that must have been kind of interesting.
Yeah. And this was after the whole Incom bust, right? And this is a funny story because I was there. I actually knocked on the door of Incom the day that happened.
Really?
Yeah, because I was in PAC.
Okay.
And I was doing some project or something. I was still in senior show. I was doing some project. I was doing something in PAC, and I was printing. This is when you used to have to call Incom to get your printer reset. Remember that? You remember? Every time you'd be like,
or the server, the YCAT servers. Oh my God, yes.
So my printer was just all messed up, and I was calling. Nobody was answering, and I was like, I have to get this done. So then I walked over to Incom. I knocked on the door, and everything was dark. I was like looking inside, and reception's all dark, and I saw a couple of people in the back by a door, and I was like, what is going on? I stood at the door, and then somebody came to the door. Alec Wheelis was on that project, and he came to the door, and he's like in CMO missionary uniform and whatever, and I was like, I'm just trying to get my printer reset. He's like, yeah, not a good time.
Yeah, like for the next few months, it wasn't a good time.
Everybody disappeared. And I didn't know that Incom story up until this past year. I finally found out what exactly happened. I was like,
yep. I'll have to. I'll have to see if I can look up a link to it so I can put it in the description of the show here because it's a bit of an involved story.
Yeah, it's
But in brief, INCOM is the International Network of Computer Organized Management. Right, that's the acronym, and it's a subunit within Scientology that is in charge of international computerization of Scientology. So the websites, the internal programs, the stat management, the routing forms, the analysis of all this information, what's called the data files, which is just a huge indexing system of documents. All of that was designed and run and managed by INCOM. And so INCOM's kind of the computer hub of Scientology. It's a high level, just under RTC organization, and it's very hush hush, and very few people work there, and very few people.
Maybe 5 staff there now.
Yeah, it's tiny,
and it's in the HTB.
Oh, is it now?
Yeah, it's in the HTB. It's in the basement of the HTB.
Okay.
And there's maybe 5 people that work there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think they got up to about 20 or 25 at their max years ago.
Yeah. They had a lot of staff.
And there was a security problem that came up back in the mid 90s, which she and I both sort of observed from a distance.
Yeah, but nobody knew what was going on.
Yeah.
No one knew what was going on. Everybody disappeared.
Yep.
You didn't see any Incom staff for months. And when you saw them, they were always with security.
That's right. And there was a wing of the second floor where they lived, and there was a security guard at a desk at the head of that wing, and you could not go back there and interact or talk with those people. And he was a very serious, no nonsense looking dude. So he didn't even want to have a conversation, right? And you just did not go there. And it was one of the first times that I ran into, coming in 95, a total mystery. Yeah. Just a complete, no one knows what's going on, and you're not to ask about it.
Yeah.
And it was serious. And it was okay. And you just kind of accepted it. Just, there's stuff I can't know about things that are really serious. And that's kind of how I just went, okay. And I just accepted it, But but what had happened was a very, very huge security violation. And there's a whole story to it. And like I said, I'll look that up and post the link to it.
Quite interesting, actually.
It's a fascinating story. Yeah, you guys will eat it up.
I was like, wow, that's what happened? Finally.
Yeah, right?
Finally, I know. After 25 years, I know what happened in Incom.
That's exactly what I said. That's exactly what I said. Because I had forgotten about it.
Yeah.
Years later, right? I come out in 2013. I'd forgotten this thing back in 1995 until I found, I think it was Dan Garvin's write-up. I think he was the one involved, right? And he was one of the ones involved. He'd worked there. So he's out of the Sea Org, and he did a whole, this is what happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So.
Yeah. So then so I was on Project Enter Income for about a year, and I was first I was finding programmers, just regular programmers, and hiring them, and they actually got through a sec check.
Wow.
Total non-Scientologists.
Wow.
Yeah, they were gotten through a sec check so that they could work in Incom, so they could be inside.
I did not know that they had ever hired non-Scientology programmers.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's new data to me.
Yeah,
Wow.
I hired them.
Yeah, there you go.
And they had to get approved through RTC and do this whole thing. And then they did, I think they were working on a lot of stuff, but I think they're mainly working on the finance systems.
That makes sense.
So they needed specific people that knew like specific programming stuff.
Right.
So I had to find them and get them hired and get them cleared with RTC. And then, and then towards the end of the project, they were like, okay, well, we need to get some Sea Org members and we need to get some Sea Org recruits now. And I had a lot of trouble with that. I got a few people arrive, but hardly any.
Yeah.
That was
it's another
really
another
tough.
level getting Sea Org members. Yeah, I did that for a year too. It was
that was really tough.
Yeah.
So then at the same time that was happening, I was still on project at the time under Incom, and the whole newer management thing happened.
Right. This is early 96.
Yeah. So
March
I remember
13th.
being told the day that the whole command team whatever arrived in the HTB. I remember being told by the Has Incom, who was running our project. She was like, "Do not go to the HTB today." Because you'll just get I remember hearing
this thing.
Everybody just got like there was a whole base briefing, whatever. Everyone took their tags off. Everyone's like, okay, you're here, you're here, you're here. You're like automatically transferred. Didn't matter what you were doing, who you were, whatever. It didn't matter.
That's right.
Like, nope, you're on this post. You're on this post. You're on this post.
It was unprecedented, by the way. It was quite literally as though you're at the office one day, and really the analogy kind of fits. It's this insane. You're at the office one day. Let's say you work as an accountant, right? And you're going into the office and you're going to go do your accountancy work, and some new CEO comes in, gets everybody together, briefs them on this brand new project and program that the company wide is going to be implementing. And everybody is now basically fired from the job you hold because we figured out a better way of organizing everybody. And you, Mr. Accountant, are now over in HR. And the HR guy is now over in production. And the male guy is now the CEO's secretary. I mean, everybody just gets moved around. It's just this great big huge thing called musical chairs, which is a very clear-cut violation of how L. Ron Hubbard said to run his organizations. Yeah, right. And it was done everywhere. It was done at the continental management level and the international level.
So that happened while I was on project. So then after that, there was another project that went specifically into senior HCO to get the line set up to get people cleared to go to INT.
Yep.
So then, and they found out that I was really senior HCO staff, but I was off on project, and they're like, we need you back for this post, specific post that they wanted me to go on. So then there was back and forth with Incom people because Incom wanted to keep me and they wanted me back. And I was like, okay, whatever. Just
you guys sort it out.
Yeah. Just tell me what you want me to do. And so then Incom finally decided they were going to recall me. Whatever. I mean, it was so whatever.
They could have just let you off.
Yeah.
But instead they have to do it with a little twist.
Yeah. So you're not recruiting enough, so we're going to recall. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Yeah. So then the project and senior HCO didn't care about that. They're like, okay, whatever. We don't care. Right. We're not in trouble or anything. So then, okay, now you're going to be senior Sea Org recruitment officer INT. Me, who's like recruited like
failed.
maybe 2 Sea Org members in my life, right?
Oh my God.
So
classic.
I was like, okay.
Where was Rial now?
Rial was senior purse int.
Okay, so he went from senior has int or something.
No, he was
always senior.
He wasn't senior has. I think he was something uplines for a while. And
okay,
he was all over the place. He's all over the place. And now he's off in Sweden writing books.
Right.
So
yeah, he's out now too.
I actually talked to him last year. It was interesting.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was good. He's like, "Well, I'm glad you're out."
Good.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. Since
All
he
right.
recruited me in the first place, I thought he should know.
You should know, exactly.
I was like, wow, he's a writer. He's published like tons of books now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know
he's
that.
a successful writer.
Good for him.
Yeah. I was like, wow.
I never had a rough encounter with him. He wasn't an abusive type, at least not in my vicinity. Was
he really wasn't. He
Yeah.
really wasn't. He actually cared about people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You get that.
He got a lot of shit
Yeah.
himself. But he was actually very caring.
Yeah.
So I was senior Sea Org recruitment officer,
Interesting.
and so then they were like, so then I was on that for a while, and I was running, programs into the orgs and doing all this stuff, and then, trying to remember the exact sequence. Real got busted for something, so they put him on as, they put him over Sea Org promo, and they put me on as senior purse offense.
Wow. The student becomes the master.
Right? Yeah, I know everything about personnel now. I'm like, anyway.
Right.
That was a little bit much.
While this was all going on with these moves and projects and this and that and the other thing, what was the environment like?
Oh, it was very unsafe.
Pray tell.
Just because what was always happening in senior HCO was that when I was there was that it was always like a witch hunt. It was always like, who's fucking things up? Who do we need to bust next? Who needs to be transferred? And when I was senior purse offense, what I was being told full time was basically that none of my juniors were qualified and I had to replace everybody. That's what I was being told full time. I'd replace my senior PCO. I guess Real was sort of okay. There was another guy who was over the EPF who's just like not really cutting it. And then I was being told I had to replace the senior INR because he wasn't qualified. And just like, yeah, that's what was happening like full time.
And now was this, let me ask you this.
And at the same time running all these international programs and over recruitment and personnel and everything full time.
Right. Of course. So it was a busy job.
Yeah, it was a busy job.
Well, let me ask you this. Because the first thing that occurs to me when you describe this situation is I'm thinking to myself, had the people who were making these demands on you, were they at all familiar with, or had they ever read any of the policies on how to handle personnel in Scientology?
Oh, I don't know.
Because what they were ordering you to do, ironically,
I mean, ostensibly they had, because it was being done by CMO all the time.
Okay.
That's who it was being done.
CMO.
Yeah.
Right. I doubt they did.
Yeah.
Bunch of CMO girls. Yeah. Okay. So
little girls that love to run around and give people orders. Oh my God. Up to this, to this day.
Yeah.
Little girls that love to run around and order people.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then they grow up,
God.
get busted, end up in the galley, and then a new round of girls comes around, right? Because it's always young girls.
Yeah.
And it's young girls.
Not a lot of guys. There's a few guys, but
not
most
many.
little girls.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that has to do with the qualifications, because you can't have ever had, any weird sex stuff or drugs or a bunch of other stuff in order just to be qualified to do that work. But apparently you don't have to be familiar with anything L. Ron Hubbard actually said, because his policies about personnel are literally and ironically the exact opposite of everything you were being ordered to do.
Yeah.
Hubbard is crystal clear in his policies, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just pointing out that the guy who actually ran and founded the organization, wrote all the policies, said how to do it, wrote that you put a person on a post and you hold them responsible for the post no matter what, and you train them. It's called hatting. You put the hat on, you train them, and you train them, and you train them, and you train them with apprenticing and with breeding and with education and with internships and all kinds of stuff. And you correct them and you train them and you actually treat them with value as though they're a real person who has value. And you incentivize them to be responsible for the job with rewards and penalties. And through that process, you are supposed to create stable people who actually hold the job and know what they're doing and can be there for years.
Yeah.
That never happens. I'm just pointing out that that's what the policies of Scientology actually do say. So I'm wondering, just because this always happens, were you going in the classroom and reading this policies or seeing this and then wondering what the hell? Like, because it becomes crazy making.
Definitely. And it was always like, well, we need to put qualified people there so they'll get the policy in, and these people aren't qualified or whatever.
Right.
Just like, and for some reason, I was the one who had to replace these people. And then I was also over the int clearance lines to get people up to int, because we're still sending people to int at that time.
Right. And that means basically getting people qualified to go to international, the gold base, where Miscavige was, right? And that was, at that time, Miscavige was there, and that was the place to be, was the international gold base. That's the super secret place in Hemet. Did you even know where it was?
No.
Yeah, it's super secret.
It was confidential. And
right.
if you ever like accidentally found out where it was, you're in trouble. Yeah. Basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, you didn't know where it was.
Exactly. And I knew when I was in the Sea Org through deduction, I knew it was within an hour and a half drive of Los Angeles, but that's all I knew.
I knew that too, just because they'd have runs, people driving there twice a day to take the mail and take people, and people go back and forth.
That's right. So you kind of knew it was not far, but you did not know what direction or how it was set. You didn't know any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So your job was to be kind of a gatekeeper. You were trying to get people through that gate up the line, and they have to go through a whole battery of testing and security checking and production record. There's an intense process to that.
Yeah.
Were you actually doing the CSWs and stuff?
I did some, yeah.
So So could you describe just kind of briefly, like what did somebody have to do to get?
It was like you had to have production record. You had to have a clean ethics record. Anything ethics wise had to be handled. You got sec checked. You did conditions. You did different auditing steps or whatever to say that that's handled.
Yeah.
You had to have like no prior like security breaches or anything.
Right. You couldn't have ever blown.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why I couldn't go to INT, because when I was a staff member in Santa Barbara, you're disqualified.
Disqualified.
No, now you've done it. I couldn't go, right? Because I wanted to be at income, but I had blown when I was a Santa Barbara staff member, so they were like, sorry.
Sorry, yeah. It was a whole thing. And it actually it took quite a while to get people cleared to go up there.
It was months long process, as I remember.
Or sometimes it was like a year that people were just hanging around, waiting to go up.
On clearance lines.
On clearance lines. That's right. And if they weren't qualified, then chances are they'd be used to replace someone else who could possibly be qualified. And there's all this stuff that was done like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now they clear people to go to S&P.
Oh. And tell everybody, what is that?
Scientology Media Productions. It opened in 2018.
Mm-hmm. That's the TV channel.
Yeah, that's the TV channel, and it's basically that area is treated like the int base.
Okay.
Very high clearances. Have to have okay to go there. Blah 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 blah.
Oh, that's interesting. Of course. Mm-hmm. And is gold still treated that way?
Gold is treated that way, but
nobody's going there.
Nobody goes to gold anymore. Nobody goes out. No one's there. Like there's people in gold, but there used to be, CMO gold. There used to be exec strata, WDC.
I did that whole video about all that.
Yeah.
I broke it all down. Yeah. And none of that's there now.
None of that's there anymore. All of those functions are basically done at the HGB and the International Liaison Office. That's where everything's done. That's where all of management's done now.
Right.
Of course, every little thing is, directed by RTC and David Miscavige, but all the management is done there. Nothing's originating
out of the gold base anymore. Yeah. And the gold base was, in case it's not clicked yet, that's where the hole was. And probably still is in some form. But it's basically
everybody on the base went, as far as I know. It's like even our execs in the ILO and the HGB disappeared. Like the COILO, COYs, let's see, there was first Rita Schwarzgruber, and then Kirsty Wilher, COILO.
I knew all of them.
Don Cunningham, Chaz Kember.
Yeah. These are major
Claire
players.
Edwards, Rena Weinberg. Lori Zern, who actually came back and got posted in the States. Yeah, all these people just they went up to the in base one day and they never came back.
Wow.
They
never
just
came
disappeared.
back.
They disappeared. I think Kirsty came back one time, and that was it. And there's just they're on projects.
And these
then Claire was like, no, they're in the hole.
Yeah, no, they're in the hole.
They're in the hole.
These were people basically who were carrying Scientology on their shoulders in one fashion or another for years. Mm-hmm. These were the guys who were running from an international level the front groups and the management units and kind of keeping that structure or framework that we talk about in place. And these are in the bigger picture of things. While they sound like heavy hitters, and they were constantly being ordered around by little girls and in CMO and by RTC, Miscavige's organization. And that part of, while structurally things have changed, that aspect of things has not, because that's how Miscavige runs things, is through his intermediaries, which is RTC. So. Yeah.
So where do we leave off?
You were there at the senior position. Now you were running the that's okay, right.
So then
and around what time period is this now?
That was 1997.
Okay.
1997 and part of 1998.
Okay.
And of course I was running all these. I was like running all these programs in the orgs and recruitment programs and personnel stuff in the orgs, right? And at one point, this is really funny. At one point, I read the policy letter called Senior HCOs Airing Continental.
Mm-hmm.
And it says exactly what Senior HCO is supposed to do, right? And I'm like, hello?
Yep, here it is.
We're not doing this. How come we're not doing this? And somebody had come out with an eval that was totally against this policy, like totally in violation. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, this eval is wrong.
Yep.
And we kept being told to do this eval, right? No, do the eval. I'm like, no, this eval is wrong. And I got investigated up one side and down the other, got into like so much trouble.
Yep.
And then I think I got, how did I come out of CHCO? I think, did I go back on the Air EPF? I'm trying to remember. No, I didn't. I just got, I got an urgent directive taking me off.
Oh boy, a UD.
Yeah.
Yeah, UDs are kind of like the President of the United States executive orders. They're like those.
That's a good comparison.
Yeah, they're just, they're whimsical. Yeah. I want this done. There's no other way to get it done. Yeah. So we're going to issue an urgent directive. And there have been waves of these things at different levels.
They decided I wasn't qualified because of my study history.
Right. Yeah, because you weren't qualified because you dared to question an eval.
Right.
Right. Was it Miscavige's eval? I'm wondering.
It was. I don't remember.
It could have been an anti-eval.
I actually don't remember.
Yeah, it wouldn't have had to have been in order for you to get busted, because it's not really desirous in Scientology that you ask a lot of questions, even though it's written in the policy that you can query any order and that you
Especially
should have.
If you disagree with someone who's senior, you can't. Or if you disagree with RTC or CMO,
that's right.
Then you're disaffected.
That's right. Even though the policy letter you're reading clearly states, gather the eggs in dozens, and here's all these little girls running around telling you, and by little girls, I mean literally 12 and 13-year-olds. I'm not kidding. And they scream at you with all the authority imbued in them as though they are L. Ron Hubbard, because that's the position they hold.
Ridiculous.
It is
it's
ego fest.
Ridiculous.
It is beyond ego fest. It really you just couldn't imagine how full of themselves these girls get.
It just makes me laugh now.
It's kind of pathetic. I mean, it really is, because every single one of them. The reason it's so tragic, actually, in retrospect, is I can hate on them for their ego and authority and all that nonsense, but I also know every single one of them. There have been no exceptions that I'm aware of. Gets busted. They all end up in the galley.
A lot of them do.
I mean, so many.
They end up either busted or leaving or whatever. I mean, there's people that have been around in CMO that I've known for a very long time, and there's people that just go. There's a lot of people that go.
They just go. That's right. So it always tends to have a tragic ending. It's the victims and the victimizers, and it's a rotating thing. And
they're usually like people who grew up in Scientology.
Yep.
Second generation, third generation Scientologists, hardcore, whatever,
That's right. That's right. So I can see all sides of it, but I just, from my memory and yours of being run around by them, it was fucking annoying. It was fucking annoying because you were in a position where you knew better and it didn't matter. And I think everybody who's worked in corporate America understands that, but then make it your whole life. Yeah. It's not just a 9 to 5. You don't go home at the end of the day and get to bitch and moan to your wife or your husband about it because you just don't have, you're not in that environment. Yeah. You're in North Korea. That's the Scientology difference about this. So please continue.
Okay, so where did I leave off? I was
you were getting busted because you questioned the eval.
That's right. So I got busted. So then I remember specifically, I wasn't taking it seriously enough that I got busted, right? So of course I get dragged in and like yelled at by one of these little girls. She was actually around my age, but she's out now. She went totally nuts. She went nuts.
Wow, that's sad.
Literally. She's long gone.
Okay.
Anyway, so I get taken out and then I'm kind of floating around doing various things. I end up working on over at CCHR for a little while because the CCHR renos were going on.
Yes, I made the front desk.
Oh, you did?
I mean, I worked with people who made that front desk, but yeah.
So I was around there for a little while. Nobody was sleeping. No. Nobody was sleeping. Oh my God, that was ridiculous.
Was it the opening for the?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
with the fist and the.
Yeah, and it was being like there was a construction company that would work during the day, and then at night, whatever they didn't get done, we would try to get done.
That's right.
That's when the renovations were done in a totally crazy way. Whatever. Lots of stories about that.
Yeah.
Everyone disappearing to New York for like a week to finish the New York renovations.
Or 3 months to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was left holding the fort.
Oh my God.
I went nuts.
Yeah.
I went absolutely nuts. So, okay. So you end up getting basically busted onto that.
So then they're like, oh, okay, we want you to work in the galley. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. I'll go work in the galley. So then I went to work in the galley as a steward, and then I actually did really well there. I liked it. I liked it because I got left alone.
Right.
I literally just got left alone to work. Nobody cared. Nobody was like, down my throat, telling me I couldn't sleep, telling me I couldn't do this and that, and I could just work. Go to study sometimes maybe, and go home and sleep.
Right.
And that was good. It was
a regularity.
Yeah.
And no little girls were running around telling you how to clean the forks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They don't micromanage at that level.
Exactly. So I ended up doing really well there. And I was there for a little while. And then that was when Kirsty was still the COILO, commanding officer. And she decided she wanted to send me out to be an ILO rep. She wanted to send me out.
You went from the galley to that?
Yeah.
Wow.
She wanted to send me out to be an ILO rep. So she's like, you're going to go in briefing. I'm like, okay. So then I was in briefing to go. I was supposed to go to Canada, be the ILO rep, Canada.
All right.
So I was in briefing for a while, doing some training, doing this and that. And then while that was happening, Buffalo happened.
Okay. I know the time now.
Yeah.
Yep. So what is this, 2002?
This was
3?
No, this was 2000.
Was it earlier?
5.
2005.
Yeah, it was 2005.
Okay.
That was around the time that I think it wasn't just as Buffalo happened. It was a little bit. It might have even been like a little while after that because it was another thing with gotta get an ED for Buffalo. Like the renovations were already done. That was like 2003. The renovations were done. So it's probably like beginning or end of 2004 where they sent this like 20-man mission, a new ED, new this and that. And it was like a whole thing.
Who was the ED they sent? Do you remember? Was that Jono?
Jono.
That was the Jono one.
That was
Okay.
that was
Yeah.
the wonderful Jono Reese.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Well, he had been down in PAC.
Yeah.
And I'd been working with him for years.
Yeah.
And he had been an RPF graduate, and then he was running the training org there. He was the COCTO.
Yeah.
And nice enough guy, but second gen, right? He raised in the Sea Org as a Sea Org kid, not a public, because his parents were Sea Org auditors, I think, Randall Reese and his Roz Reese. And anyway, I knew Jono. He ended up infamously not doing well there in Buffalo.
Nobody did well in Buffalo.
No, Buffalo
every ED of Buffalo.
Buffalo is where you send people to fail. They're
just gonna leave. I was amazed.
But Buffalo was the first, for those of you who in the chronology of Scientology, Buffalo is where this whole ideal org thing started. Remember that whole history. Buffalo, the Buffalo Project or the Buffalo Pattern is what it was called at first. Nobody was calling it ideal orgs. They hadn't come up with that yet. It was the Buffalo thing.
Yeah, they did Buffalo, and then shortly after that was Buffalo, Tampa, Johannesburg,
and San Francisco,
all at the same time.
That's right.
So then, because I was hanging around Action, I was hanging around briefing and doing whatever around Action. Then I got sucked into that whole thing of, you're going to help get Buffalo out. And I'm like, okay. So then I worked on that for like a couple weeks and got them out, helped get them out, whatever. And then that died down and they were gone. And I was like, okay, so am I supposed to go or what? Like, what am I doing here?
Right.
I'm just still in briefing. So then a security guard decided that I was going to go to the EPF because I was
unutilized again.
Because I didn't have a post. I didn't have a statistic. I didn't have a senior. It was like nothing. Nothing was happening.
It's like rando.
Yeah.
It's just so rando. I mean, I wish that this was not representative of life in the Sea Org, but it's completely representative of life in the Sea Org.
Totally.
So
then I did that. And
so you're back to boot camp.
Yeah, I was there for like 6 months. I actually totally I was there for a long time. I actually totally loved it. I had fun. I worked in the mill. I worked on the all the signage for London because London Org is going to open. I worked on Berlin. I did all this stuff. I had a lot of fun.
Oh my God, we must have been running past each other.
Probably.
Because I was working on RPFs. I was on the RPF. I was working on Berlin signage.
Right?
Yeah. We totally.
At the same time.
I'm telling you, we were probably this close, and neither one of us actually even remembers it because we were so like. Brr.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's funny.
And that was kind of fun, actually. That was when I actually met the famous Daniel Montalvo. You know Daniel Montalvo's story? He was like my little brother. I adopted him as like my little brother. Oh my God. I heard his whole story recently.
It was not.
I was like,
great.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
You little shit. Anyway.
Basically.
Yeah.
We're not going there. You can Google it.
Yeah. Google Daniel Montalvo. And his mother actually ended up being a really good friend of mine. So I was doing that, and then nobody talked to me for like 6 months. Like nobody answered any of my daily reports. I think I went over to the HCB for like a ethics interview or something a couple times, and that was it. And
wow.
Roll back.
Right. All those enemy lines.
Yeah, exactly.
Spreading.
Spreading, right? So then I just worked there for a while. And then it was like I didn't even redo my courses or anything until the very end. I just hung out in the mill and I worked. I just did all this. I love doing signage. I'm like a total artist.
Wow.
So I just hung out there.
I mean, admittedly, it was, the one thing I will say that I feel to this day that is a lasting thing that was probably the only positive out of my RPF experience was learning the craft of how to work in a mill.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
how to use all the tools.
I wanted to get posted there. I loved it.
Yeah, I actually felt like I was learning a trade.
Yeah.
And that still serves me today.
There were some interesting things that happened when I was there. There was just interesting people that arrived to be in the Sea Org, and you're like, okay. And there was one girl. Oh my God, there was this one thing that happened I was telling you about. So there was this girl. She was probably like 13. Totally sweet girl. And they were working over at the Hollywood Inn on renovations over there. And I wasn't I wasn't there that day. But she was carrying glass. She was carrying like an armful of glass, and she tripped, and she got her wrist sliced really bad. She had to go to the ER. Total flap. Oh my God. I actually ended up hanging out with her for a couple days and like a week or something, giving her assists and chilling her out and stuff. She was a really sweet girl. But minor, doing this kind of work without gloves, without anything, got really badly injured.
Yep.
And I don't know if the EPFIC was there at the time. Actually, I don't think he was there. I think there was someone else running it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a total, she ended up leaving and whatever.
Right.
Yeah, that was really sad. I couldn't believe that had happened.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course it happened. There were more OSHA.
Like renovations that get done without, like, people just don't know what they're doing.
No. They don't. They literally, here's a sledgehammer, make it go right.
Yeah.
Start tearing down walls.
Tear down the wall. No gloves, no, like, nothing.
Yeah.
And like young people doing this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell a quick story because I don't know that I've ever told this story publicly. I've told it privately. This is an RPF story, but it is a sample. It is very representative of the safety standards of a Scientology renovation site. And we were up on the 6th floor of the main building in PAC.
Yeah. And
this is the old Cedar-Sinai complex. And so you have those two angled wings off the main building. And we were up on the top floor. And these are huge windows. All those windows you see in that building. They're big. You could almost stand in them. They are very large. So they're wide open. This is a wing that is being demolished. Yeah. We're, the RPF, we demolish things. And so the way you bring a hanging ceiling down is you go climb up in it. And you do what's called ceiling surfing, where a bunch of RPFers would get up there and start pounding on the ceiling, jumping up and down on it. And then the ceiling's hanging by wires from the real ceiling. It's a false ceiling. So they're jumping up and down on this until it gives way. And usually it all comes straight down. Well, this one guy's holding on to one of these wires, pound, pound, pound. It gives out under him without him realizing it's going to happen. He's holding on to this wire. He swings, comes down out of the roof, holding on to this thing, swings all the way. His body goes all the way out the window. Like the wide open window. It's 6 stories up, and his body is all the way out of it, holding on to a wire. He had the whatever, the calmness of mind, whatever. He had the sense to keep holding on, and he swung right back in, and they and they grabbed him, right?
God.
Like everybody's like, what the fuck, right? And he swings right out, swings back in, they grab him, he's fine. No problem. Everybody kind of, PTS check. And that's it. And they go on with their work, right? He was a millisecond away from tragedy. Yeah. Right? This is the kind of thing that's just
I've
routine.
A couple like that. There was one girl that I knew that was on top of some scaffolding. Mm-hmm. This wasn't on the EPF. This was just staff doing renovations. I think it was over at the Able building. She was on top of some scaffolding, and the scaffolding started to fall. And so she jumped from one scaffolding to the other. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, she would have fallen.
Yep.
She would have fell. And this is another one. I was over in the Able building one time doing renovations, and the EPF, we're in, I forget what it's called, Cagney Hall. Ever seen that? We were in that. So it has a really high ceiling, and there was EPFers up in the ceiling taking out the AC. Mm-hmm. And I was standing in this one place doing some painting or something for like an hour. For a while, I was painting in one specific area, and I happened to move, like walk like 20 feet away to get something, and the entire AC unit came down where I had been standing.
Wow. Yeah, there you go.
So if I would have walked away,
you'd be dead.
I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Par for the course. I mean, accidents happen on construction sites, renovation sites all the time. I get that. But when you practically solicit them through lack of coordination, lack of understood rules on site, right? No OSHA standards whatsoever. And just forget about OSHA, regulators or something coming out and doing something about it, because Scientology owns them. Like, we always knew when an inspector was coming. We always knew, from the city, from OSHA, from wherever, right? We always had a heads up, because they would give it to us. We're going to come by and do an inspection. Oh, okay. And then you run around cleaning everything up, when
I was in the area EPF, we were taking the files, the OSA files, out of the HI attic.
Yeah.
OSA files in the HI attic. Tons of them, right? Yeah.
Of course there were.
OSA files. So we had to take all these
super
files
confidential
out.
stuff, right? Spy stuff.
So we got so sick of taking them all the way down like 8 flights of stairs, right? So then we're like, what we did is we took the whole huge trash can and we got some rope and we put a whole bunch of files in, and we would just drop it straight through the
straight down. There it goes.
And we had like some people down at the bottom, made sure nobody came in or whatever, because there's like this, this square, and then the stairs go up like this. So you like keep people out, and the trash can
down they go.
Whoosh. You got hit by that thing, you were
exactly
completely dead. But it was really efficient.
Exactly. Anyway. We're nothing if not efficient in the Sea Org. Yes. All right. So but you were kind of at least getting chill time, working on some stuff in front of you that you could work on. It was kind of.
Yeah. I was
going okay.
On that, and then I was told, we want you back in the galley. The RTC rep wants you to come back in the galley.
Back in the galley.
Yeah, because I was apparently doing well when I was in the galley. So that's what I was told. I was like, okay, fine.
So I'll go
only because she wants me. She's kind of cool, so I'll go. Fine.
Wow.
So then I did my courses in like 2 days, and then I was done. I was graduated. That's it.
Par for the course, guys. Yeah. Par for the course, right? Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny in retrospect. I've interviewed a lot of people now, right? Ex-Scientologists and stuff, and you hear the whole stories, and I, I'm such a stickler for, the policy says, right? Because I know a lot of the policy, and we all do, and yet we all know no one really gives a shit what it says. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not really that. That's not really the glue holding that thing together, which is kind of weird because it's so emphasized all the time. But exactly. You hear your story, and it's just violation after violation after violation. Like if you were just doing the things according to the way Hubbard wrote, none of that would have been happening. Other crazy stuff would be probably happening instead, but not this level of crazy. It's just like they don't even care. It's just so bizarre.
They're just like, nope, you're done.
Yep. Oh, wow.
I'm like, okay, fine, I'm done.
So you're back in the galley.
I didn't know why I was here in the first place, but it was kind of fun. So so I went back in the galley. So then that was like end of 2006. And then I was working there. I was the lead steward, and I was doing all sorts of stuff. And then 2007. Okay. So right before the basics came out. Okay. So at this time, when I was in Portland on staff, my sister was on staff. She was in the DSA office, and my mom was on staff. My sister was actually the DSA PR in Portland for many, many years. She was in OSA for many years. And then somebody decided she wasn't qualified to be an OSA, and so they put her on as the HES instead, because she was apparently qualified to be an exec in the org, but not qualified. Whatever, I don't get it. But she still wasn't doing well, so she ended up leaving staff. My mom left staff, and then she got re-recruited for Portland, or CC Portland. She was on CC Portland staff for a little while, and then she wasn't really making it, and so she left again. So they were both off staff. So I knew they were both off staff, and I was talking to them all the time and whatever, right? I was in the Sea Org. And
did they know the intimate details of your Sea Org experience?
They didn't know.
Or were you really glowing it to them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was making it sound much better than it was. And my sister got worried when she heard I was on the EPF, because she knew she had been on training in PAC for a while, and she saw some of the RPFers and were like, oh, this is weird. And like, they always looked unhappy and kind of weird. And so she was worried about me. And then my mom was kind of worried about me and wondering what was going on. And I was like, no, it's fine. It's okay. Everything's fine. So then I came off. I was in the galley for a little while. And then right before probably like 2 weeks or something before the basics came out. I get this call from my sister, and she's like, I really want to see you. I'm going to come down to LA for the weekend. I'm like, great, awesome, great. I'll get some time off. And I requested the time off. It actually got delayed. Wow, amazing.
What?
Oh, and actually let me go back to this for a second. In 1997, the only leave I ever took in 1997 to go up to Portland and see my mom and my sister for Christmas. I was supposed to go up for a week, and somebody decided that something was more important, and some flap was happening or something, and I had to cut it down to 4 days, and I literally had to call her the day I was supposed to get on the plane and tell her I wasn't coming. She was very upset, and I only came for like 4 days or something instead of like a week and a half or something I was supposed to come for. So that.
Oh yeah, 2-week leave every year. Absolutely, that's what you get in the Sea Org.
Actually, it's supposed to be 3 weeks, isn't it?
You're right.
Yeah,
it's right. 3 weeks.
Did you ever take a 3-week leave? Neither did I.
I took 2 days for my wedding. I took 2 days to go.
I got married on Sea Org Day. I got right after the ceremony. We took a bus. We took a bus to Las Vegas. I got married in Las Vegas.
Our parents, her mom drove us to Vegas from PAC on a Saturday morning.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, we got married that night, and then we had Sunday, and we had to be back on base Sunday night. So the longest time off I ever had in the Sea Org that I can recall was a 3-day thing.
Yeah, I got 4 days, and then like I said, when I got married, we went right after the ceremony to Vegas, and we got married at like 3:00 in the morning, and then we took another bus down to Newport where everybody was on for Sea Org Day.
Oh
and
my
we joined everybody for Sea Org Day.
Oh my God. Yeah. Happy wedding.
Right?
So good times. Okay. So so the time off thing was definitely a problem.
Yeah, that was definitely a problem.
Were you getting libs even on a regular basis?
I was. I'll get to that when I was in. Oh, did I? Oh, wait a second. I skipped an entire post that I was on. Sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
1998. Okay, when I came out of, it's so stupid. When I came out of senior year, I didn't go to the galley. Sorry.
Oh.
I went to Data. I went to Data in 1998. God,
okay.
Golly. I got my time totally messed up.
Okay.
So I went there. I was there for 7 years. Oh my God, that was not a good time at all.
Oh wow. You were okay. No. Okay. Again, really... I probably remember you there, but because I think I saw you when I went up to get briefed on Buffalo.
Yeah, you probably did.
And I think I saw you there.
I actually went to the area EPF from Data. I can't believe it. Anyway.
Okay.
So yeah, I was in.
And what is Data? What were you doing?
Data
what
is basically you get statistics in from every single org every week. They have all these statistics they report on their, how many people started courses, what points they got on their courses, their well done auditing hours, their income, everything you can think of to like measure the production of the org. So that all comes in, gets, anything that looks weird gets queried. There's this whole thing that's done every week that I was actually running for several years myself. And I was in collection. I was a data collection. So I was responsible for getting in everything from the org, all the weekly reports. I was working with Incom a lot on computerizing weekly reports and doing that whole thing. Yeah. In charge of working on the computerized data files.
And this is basically Scientology management's centralized database system.
Right. Like you're supposed to get all this information in from every single organization.
Every week.
Every week. And you're supposed to be able to take that and manage from that and correctly evaluate and tell the place how to do better.
That's right.
And and it's, of course it's a flap if not everything comes in every single week. And so that was just a constant flap and constant, like, no sleep, constant, like, you're doing it wrong. And then go down to external comm and make some phone calls. And I just remember at one point I was just like, this isn't right. I'm not I'm not getting this in this way anymore. And got in a big fight with somebody, and gotten like in a physical altercation with someone.
Wow.
Yeah, with you remember Nora Mayfield?
Oh yes.
Yeah, she was the data she was the data chief.
Yes.
And
Wow, you guys got physically into it.
Yeah. That's one of the things actually that my mom found out because of Anne Marie Grant.
Uh-huh.
We were both in data at the same time. And when that happened, she saw it happen and then she left, and my mom or my sister found her online somehow and got all this information and found out that I like gotten like this physical altercation with somebody.
Yeah.
So yeah, my mother found that out and was not happy about that.
Right.
So, where was I? So yeah,
Well, you were just so out of ethics.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Oh God. And also at that time, what was happening in management was that there was like, and I'm sure this was the case in the CLO too. There was just study order after study order after study order after study order. Okay, now you're going to study blah. Now you're going to study. Now you're going to study all these in chronological sequence. Yeah. Now you're going to study this. Now you're going to method 9. All of the CBO. Did you M9 the CBO? So did I. I took a year to do it.
Yep.
So because you're still not doing it right, management. You're still not doing it right. That's all management has ever told. You're still not doing it right.
Oh my God, I spent years. Diving into OODs, CBOs, FOs, all the old issues, trying to sort out the evolution and structure of the system I was in.
Yeah. And like, you're still not doing it right.
And you're you work at a company and you're, again, an accountant. You're just some person. You're just working as a part of this machine. And the machine is not, you're not, the stock price ain't going up, like it's not successful. And the CEO or the managers keep coming down and telling everybody the reason it's not going is because you guys aren't structuring this right and doing this right. Figure it out. Do your jobs. Let's go.
Yeah.
No direction, no advice, no guidance. No, this is how you're doing it wrong. It's just you guys are all doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Figure it out. And then you're like, what do I need to do? Go get an MBA from Harvard to figure this out? Because then you go do that. And then you come in and try to implement it. And everybody's going, no, that's not right. That's wrong too. That's not right.
Everything's wrong.
Everything's wrong, no matter what you do. And so, yeah, we would get oh my God, just so many fucking study orders.
Yeah, and instead of just having somebody like do training for their post, like we were talking about earlier.
Right.
Like, no, everyone's going to study this. And everyone's going to study this in this sequence. And I don't know about you, but we had the RTC reps standing in the course room watching you study and being like,
you better be getting this.
Yeah, exactly. So
ridiculous.
That was
just ridiculous rounds of stress over stupidity.
Yeah.
That was one of the things about being in management was just that, in a service org, you had a student in front of you. You had a pre-clear in front of you. There were very specific things you knew to do.
Yeah.
When it came to management, it was roll your own ideas every other day. And then when these issues and orders and directions and emergencies constantly undercutting any forward progress you think you're making.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like that. And data was involved in all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was the hub. It's the kind of the information hub of the whole thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it was always a flap when all the reports weren't in and all that. And I went, oh my God.
That's right.
Constant. Like, okay, well, you're not going to sleep until you have blah, blah, blah. And you're like,
exactly. Now, during all this time, and you've been in for years now at this point, right? When we get to your, you and data. I mean, you've been in Scientology for over 10 years at this point. Mm-hmm. Where were you at on the bridge?
I was, let's see. When I went into data, they got me through objectives. Yeah, I did objectives like with an auditor in session.
Okay.
That's where I was.
So you got up through the second level. You'd done a Purif and you did objectives.
Yep.
So 10 years in Scientology, over 10 years in Scientology, working for the organization.
Yep.
And you have barely finished 2 service levels out of like 20.
And I got lots of ethics interviews.
Yes.
Tons of ethics interviews. That was like a whole thing.
Yeah.
And you remember the metering seminar?
Oh yeah.
That was done. And then the security would decide that they're going to give you an ethics interview, and they don't have no idea what they're doing. At least if you're with like a trained auditor who can like talk to you like a person, it's a little bit better than some security guard who thinks they're going to like, you know, pull your withholds with a meter. Right. And I spent hours doing that. God, I wanted to kill these people.
Oh, there were these fads where the security guys, the outfitted uniformed security personnel were sort of running the gulag. And it was crazy because everything they were doing was completely wrong and completely not anything that L. Ron Hubbard had ever said to do. But they had invented this whole procedure and idea that they could interrogate you with the e-meter anyway. Yeah. And they were doing this. Anyway, there were a lot of rule violations around all of this. This was something Marty Rathman had his fingers in directly, by the way, and was stirring the pot of. There was a video he had put out. I don't remember that, where he talked about ethics interviews. There was a Rathman video.
I just know that there was a metering seminar that everybody went to.
That's where it came from, right? Instead it came from this issue. Instead of doing like the course
and learning how the e-meter is supposed to work and what you're supposed to do. It's a seminar.
Yep.
And then you're supposed to anyway.
Yeah, the whole thing was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, it was quite bad.
I got a lot of those.
Got a lot of that.
I got a lot of that.
Yeah. But, you were taking the staff/ethics route up the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what all of us were doing. We used to joke about that. We used to actually laugh about that.
I never heard that.
Oh, really? Yeah, I was doing the ethics route up the bridge because there's the training, there's the auditing, and then there's ethics. Yeah. That's how I'm going up the bridge.
Oh, my God. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So, okay. So please continue.
So then, I was in data, and then I got 4 comments when I was in data.
Wow. Wow. Committees of evidence. These are justice actions. You are in a lot of fucking trouble.
Yeah.
You get a ComEv, you are in a lot of fucking trouble. Like things are going to be bad for you if you get a ComEv.
I never got a court of ethics, by the way.
Or no, they just went right to ComEv.
I think I got 1 court of ethics in my whole life.
Well, that's the fight. We're past that ethics gradient.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just ComEv for you.
Straight to ComEv. That's right.
ComEvs are usually, by the way, how people get declared suppressive. That can be an outcome of a ComEv. You can get kicked out of Scientology through a ComEv. Yeah. So it's a very serious thing, right?
You're usually not usually, but you can get taken off post.
Yep.
You can get, whatever penalties, amends, ethics conditions.
Hundreds of hours of amends.
Demoted in rank.
Yep.
Which I actually never got, but
I got that one. I got demoted. I think I had 2 or 3 ComEvs in all my years. Yeah, especially including when I wanted to leave. They ComEv'd me because I wanted to leave. Wow. I was like, thanks, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nice. Parting gift for you. Here's a justice action for you. So you get these ComEvs.
So then by the 4th ComEv, I was like, okay, fine, I'm done. I'm done. Just put me somewhere else. Let me do something else. And that was when I went into the galley.
Okay.
Yeah. Chilled out for a while. And then I was in the galley 2005. And then that was when Kirsty was like, "Oh, we're going to send you out," and that whole thing I explained.
Okay, happened.
And then I came back. I came off the EPF. I went back in the galley. I was there end of 2006, and then right before the basics came out. I was up to when my sister called. So my sister called and said, "Yeah, I want to see you for the weekend." I'm like, "That's great. I want to see you too. It's been ages." And so I got okay. I got off, met up with her, and went to. We were going to go to a hotel and stay in a hotel and go and spend the weekend together. Mm-hmm. And so I had been up most of the night before, so I was very out of it. It was some flap that was happening while I was in the galley. It was some flap that was happening. I think we had to clean or something.
Right.
Like cleaning somehow was a flap. Whatever. So I was up, and then I went the next day with her, and then we were on our way to the hotel, and she's like, "I have a surprise for you. I can't wait till you see it. I have a surprise for you." I'm like, "Okay, cool. I just want to go to sleep." So then we get to the hotel, and my mom is there.
Oh, nice.
She had brought my mom with her. I'm like, "Oh my God," because I hadn't seen my mom in ages, and so I was with them both, and then we started talking, and everything was great, right? And then they start asking lots and lots and lots of questions. And basically told me that they had decided to leave Scientology. They hadn't told me this before, obviously, because I wouldn't have been allowed to go and see them.
Of course.
So they're like, yeah, we're not in anymore. And we have a lot of questions, and just, shocked me with that. Completely shocked me. I was like, whoa, okay, I didn't know about this.
Wow.
And then just started asking me all sorts of things about, the basics and the, revisions that were done.
Yeah.
And
because they had already come out now.
no, they hadn't come out yet, but it was like the Congresses had come out, and it was like talk of, something was coming.
Yep.
And asking all sorts of things about, well, why new buildings and why this whole thing on renovations and just like this whole thing. And I think we talked until like 5 a.m. And I was just like, oh,
wow.
And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a problem. So
have you seen or read the Debbie Cook email?
I have now. Yeah, I did.
Okay. I know you didn't then.
Ago, yeah.
It
I remember
sounds
when
like
that happened. Actually, I remember.
Yeah, I know, me too. Because that's what
I remember the senior comm off and was in external comm for like 3 days straight, trying to do stuff and get answers and do all sorts of things on the computer systems and stuff.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. It sounds like your sister and your mom had a lot of the same concerns that Debbie Cook wrote into that email.
Oh, yeah.
What's the policy on this? How is this standard? Would Hubbard do this? What is that the flow of it?
Yeah, that was a lot of it. Yeah.
Okay, because it wasn't just Debbie Cook who was asking those questions and put it into an email. There were a lot of people in Scientology who looked at this program and were like, "Wait a minute, what?" Yeah, but it was the next big thing. It was Miscavige was absolutely, this is what we're doing, and he briefed all the OTs on it on the ship. Yeah. We watched that briefing. I watched it like 9 times.
Oh, yeah.
Like that full briefing, right? On all the Div 6. Div 6 is going to be a third of the org, and we're going to have all these books, and we're going to have seminar spaces, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It was going to be huge. It was going to be like...
Yeah, and then you end up in one of these huge, beautiful orgs, like in Columbus, that's totally... There's not even a sidewalk that goes by the org. Right. There's not even a sidewalk. And then you look at the policy, and it's like... what is it? One of the power
traffic area
quality checklists. If the org is not in a heavy traffic area, the estates manager is supposed to move it. You're like, estates manager.
Exactly.
We're gonna move though.
Exactly.
Can you imagine if you?
Well, it is hilarious how even common sense.
Yeah.
Like the most common sense thing you would think. With a Scientology church that relies on people going out and bringing physically other people in, of course you would put this place where there are people.
Yeah.
And these new orgs have almost 1-for-1 opened up way the hell outside the city or out in some residential area.
People even walking by. And it wasn't even residential. It was like what was around us was a TV station, an air conditioning repair place, like all these like industrial things where very specialized places where it's like, there's not just people driving by going to stop at the mall or something.
That's right.
And it's like,
that's right. Even Austin's temporary quarters right now. Austin org has a building, very nice building, and it was renovated. It's done. It's been done for like 2 years now. They're temporarily located in another place for the last couple years because they are not allowed to occupy this building that is right across the street from the University of Texas. They can't occupy it because they can't do the grand opening yet because of COVID. So they've been located in a strip mall across the street from a graveyard.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
I went there.
Oh my God.
I went there. That's where Austin org is right now. They are literally in a strip mall across from a graveyard. Yeah. I could not stop laughing.
Wow.
I was almost on the ground. I could not believe how off everything has gotten in that group with that, right? Across from a graveyard. So, yeah.
Yeah, and apparently parking was a big issue for Columbus, so now they have a huge parking lot. That's it.
Oh, nice.
Good.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Like
there's
2
no
levels.
people,
like there's
but we got parking.
Levels. Like the org is 1 level. There's a lower level of parking and an upper level. There's like 3 levels of parking.
And who's there? Nobody. Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no people.
There's like less than 100 people that attend courses per week.
It's just you just couldn't make some of this stuff up. You just would not imagine anybody could be this stupid, and yet it keeps happening.
Yeah,
it keeps happening. So please continue.
So then I was, so your
mom and your sister are basically doing an intervention.
Exactly. And I didn't take it very well at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I was like, nope. Mm-mm. And then the next day, my sister told me about how she connected up with Anne-Marie and found out that I had this physical altercation. And my mom was like really upset about that and everything. And then, so we were sitting in the hotel room, nice day, had the door open. So I look up and Anne-Marie's in the door.
She came.
Yeah, she came.
Wow.
She came to try to talk to me, to try to get me to go. Or
how
to do
cool of her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, now I think it's cool. At the time I was very, very upset. So I just got up and I shut the door. I was like, nope, we're leaving. We're going back. You're going to talk to somebody. We're going back to the HCB. You're taking me back right now. So then I got all my stuff and we got in the car and we were driving back to the HCB. My mom's like, oh, I don't feel well. I want to stop. I'm going to get something to eat. So we stopped to get something to eat. And she's like, I'm going to go on a walk. So then she goes on a walk around the block and I go and I call the HCB and I speak to, I end up talking to like one of my seniors, right? Because I was trying to get the poor captain. I was trying to get the external security chief, Kirsten Pedersen. Right. And I couldn't get any of them. So then I finally talked to one of my seniors and I'm like, I need to talk to somebody as soon as I get there with my family. And he was like, okay. So then we finally get there and they drop me off a few blocks away from the HCB. And I go in and I talk to security. I talk to Kirsten and tell them everything that happened. And they're like, okay, let's go talk to her. And so we go and they had driven away. They left, right? So then we tried to find them. We spent the rest of the day trying to find them. We went back to the hotel. I tried to call my sister. My sister wasn't answering the phone and she finally answered. And she's like, mom's really upset. I'm going to take her for a walk. And then she hung up and I didn't talk to her again. And then the next day we went to the airport, waited at the airport. And apparently my mom was with Astra and a few other people. And OSIS somehow found that out because they just find out. They're very good at finding things out.
I wonder.
So, yeah, right. So then we were told to leave the airport and we never talked to them. So then a few weeks later, I talked to my mom. And I talked to her a lot over the months, like trying to handle her. And meanwhile, I was like, I did like every PTS handling in the book. Basically, by the end of this, I redid the course. I did like auditing on like every auditing you can think of on it. And actually at the end, like this is like super Scientology specialized talk, but you do like the suppressed person rundown.
Oh,
right?
You got that?
Yeah, I got that.
Wow.
And while I was on that, my mom came to LA while I was doing that, but I wasn't allowed to talk to her.
Right.
Because she was with somebody who I found out recently, she was with somebody who had never been in Scientology, but who was trying to help her and whatever. Right. And somehow OSA knew this person that she was with and wouldn't let me talk to her.
Okay.
Which is like supposed to be the end result of this
they're
thing.
Preventing the EP.
Yeah.
The magic of Scientology involves it with the Scientology auditing that we all know about. There are the PTS handlings, which we've talked about at length about handle or disconnect. You got to get the bad egg out of your life, or you have to get them to shut up. If that doesn't fly, if the person is still antagonistic or is persisting, there's auditing you can receive that is supposed to help deal with this antagonism, this person in your life who's antagonizing you about Scientology or otherwise. And you will get what's called a PTS rundown. And that addresses this lifetime and last lifetime connections with antagonistic people. But if that doesn't make it go away and work, you could finish that whole thing. And then the last bit, the most like the last straw is what's called the suppressed person rundown.
I spent a year on that, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Going to session almost every day.
Jesus Christ. You go into session every day, right?
And you run problems processes.
And you run problems processes. You run auditing, mostly repetitive processes.
Yeah.
That have to do with who's giving you problems, or what kind of problems do you have, or what problems have you given others, or there are all kinds of questions.
There's like tons of them.
Yeah, there's a set of them that you can do. I did that on somebody. In fact, I did that rundown on Matt Woodcraft.
Oh wow, you did?
Yes, I did. Because of his sister.
How funny.
And we ran it on the RPF.
How long did he do it for?
I ran it on him for a few weeks. He kept protesting and protesting. And
why was he protesting?
Because he didn't think that his sister was really an SP.
Right.
And how was she going to reach out to him when he's on the RPF?
Yeah. Yeah. I was having a problem because my mom wasn't antagonistic to me.
Right.
She made that clear. And in all of our conversations, she was not antagonistic to me.
Right.
She was like, I'm not a Scientologist anymore. What's the problem?
Exactly.
I don't need to follow their policies. I'm not a Scientologist. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not interested. I don't want anything to do with it. I just want a connection with you.
Yep.
But that's not allowed. So somebody cannot decide what got me in like a mind twist about it for quite a while was that somebody can't, be in Scientology, decide they're not in Scientology anymore, and still be connected to someone who's a Scientologist, which is not right.
That's right.
It's like, okay, you don't want to do Scientology? Okay, that's your choice if you don't want to be in Scientology anymore. That's right. Totally your choice. And she was never attacking me, so I'm supposed to handle her, or it's supposed to she's supposed to have some sort of reach towards me in like a friendly way, and she's not. I'm like, she's not being unfriendly. So the EP of this is that she's supposed to be a Scientologist again. What are we going for here?
Exactly.
And I kept bringing this up in session, and my auditor was great actually, but I kept bringing it up. I'm like, I don't understand this. She's not going to reach for Scientology again. She's not going to say, oh yeah, she's not going to have a friendly reach towards Scientology. That's not happening. And I kept bringing this up. And finally, after a year of doing these processes, it was like, okay, you can attest to your PTS handling being complete.
Right.
That was what it was. And I just stopped doing it.
Yep.
I was like, okay.
That's what we did with Matt.
Wow.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did.
Wow.
Because the supposed magical end result, and Hubbard uses that word, by the way, he says it's pure magic, is that you run these processes on a person, whether it's for weeks, months, or years, until outside of you, completely external to you, that antagonistic person reaches out to you, phone call, letter, email, whatever, tweet, and says something nice, says something favorable, does, put something out there that indicates they're no longer antagonistic to you. And it's supposed to be the auditing of you that makes that change happen in that other person. Yeah, because you're supposed to start running their problems. Right. It's supposed to be this OT kind of phenomena. It's total horseshit. I know of one person who ran it until their mother randomly sent them a letter saying, hi, wish I could talk to you. And they took that as the EP. Yeah. Right. And it was just funny that she actually came to LA to try to talk to me while I was doing that. Yeah. And then it was like, oh, sorry, you can't talk to her. Exactly. So I'm like, so they're just getting right in the way of whatever magic was happening. But so what do I do now? Exactly. The whole thing is just rather silly. I have actually never, other than that one random rumor, I've never actually heard of anybody doing this rundown to that result and the PTS condition being resolved. Yeah. It's usually this, they end up at loggerheads and some dead end, and then they just kind of pull the plug. Right. And, and that's what happened with Matt, and that's and others I've seen. Yeah, then you end up in this like mind twist of, okay, like I did with her. I'm just like, she just doesn't want to do it anymore herself. Right. So what am I'm supposed to make her be a Scientologist when she doesn't want to be? Well, the problem, of course, did anybody show you the justice codes? Because there's the high crime of public disavowal of Scientology. Yeah. She's an SP now, right? Exactly. If you leave Scientology and say so, you're an SP. I that's not a misinterpretation of that line. That it is a high crime. Yeah. But no Scientologist really gets it until it happens to them.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, wait a minute, I didn't think it meant that. I thought it was some asshole publicly disavowing Scientology, not my mom.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
You know?
Yeah.
And then the rubber meets the road and suddenly you find out, oh no.
Yeah.
That's my mom. Wait a second.
Yeah.
I mean, what was your reaction?
Oh,
with this problem? I mean, with this thing, you were protesting it in the
I just
sessions.
kept bringing it up. I'm like, she's not going to become a Scientologist again. So what do you want? What EP am I supposed to have?
Right.
And even if she reaches out to me and is like chill with me, which she actually is, she's not upset with me. She kept making that very clear. I'm not upset with you. I have no problem with you.
Right.
I do not want to be in Scientology anymore.
Exactly. And that's what the organization
with you. Yeah, and
couldn't deal with.
No, you can't have that.
That's right.
You can't have that. You can't just leave. Yeah. Yeah, right. So then, okay, so then I did that. So then that ended in 2009. I was finally done with that.
Okay. Yeah, because they basically torture you for a year.
Right.
With this.
Yeah, exactly. So then I went about I sort of went about my life. I was glad to be done. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm not going to get kicked out. I'm not going to be like, because I was scared I was going to have to leave or whatever.
Right. And is this, you're back in the galley still during this time?
Yeah. So I'm in the galley and I actually become I like a year or so after that, I become the deputy chief steward. So I'm essentially running the galley and I actually did really well there. And I was like, I did really well there as far as like doing my job and everything. You know what I mean? I was like,
you weren't getting in trouble all the time.
I wasn't getting in trouble all the time at all. I ended up doing like working with services CMO on like senior exec type servicing RTC and doing all this stuff. I did that for
Actually,
years.
let's talk about this for a second. This might be interesting to people.
Yeah.
Because there is a class system that we've discussed briefly in Scientology in the past on my channel. RTC, top of the heap, right? Yeah. CMO kind of right below them, and then kind of everybody else kind of sucks, right? I mean, at various levels. Yeah. I mean, supposedly there's like ILO, and then and then the Kant, and then the staff, and then the public. But you get mix and match with some of this.
Even within ILO, you have different levels. Yeah.
Right.
Which gets a little bit confusing after a while.
I'll bet it does. So being on the food end of things, this is funny because.
Oh, you see everything. You see everything and you know everything that's happening. You know, like, you don't know like specifics necessarily, but you know when shit's going down. You know when shit's going down. And especially when you're around RTC all the time, you're around like, the commanding officer and different various senior executive type people all the time. And when shit's going down and people get in trouble, they get sent to the galley to clean or whatever. And you literally see everything when you're
right. Because today's hero is tomorrow's zero.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And so then they're standing in front of you.
Yeah.
Okay, galley, I see. Here's a worker for you. And this is a person you were saluting 2 days ago.
Yeah. For example, the former COCMO PAC became my junior. Chantel was my junior. Right.
The little girl who used to yell and scream at me rose up the ranks in PAC, became the commanding officer, right? A very senior position. And she was there for quite a while. And she was pretty ruthless.
By an off-policy eval. And anyway, there was a whole lot of stuff.
Got busted.
Got busted and came and worked with me.
There you go. And now in the galley.
Yeah, that's right.
So, like I said, today's hero,
like
tomorrow's zero.
Like groups of people, and we went through like 3 ideal org units, and like you'd have the entire unit. Okay, so there was like an entire, Chris is losing it. You'd have an entire unit, like it started with people that were formerly or were still like int staff type people, right? Like Lucky Story, Hans Smith.
Fear,
Rebecca,
not Rebecca, the other one.
Sarah Fear,
yeah.
Trying to remember. That was probably like.
There was Angie Blankenship for a while.
Angie Blankenship was kind of her own.
She was on her own
really
thing.
With them. She was her own thing, and then she disappeared because she
got pregnant.
But you know who she was, right? Yeah.
Chantel Ramirez.
Chantel.
That's right. It was a little
laugh when I heard. I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
I know it was a little karmic justice.
Oh
I'm
my
sorry, but it
God.
kind of was, and that's a really mean thing to say to about Chantel, because she's, I really liked her, but
Yeah.
man, it's just what comes around goes around.
Yeah.
I just don't know what to say about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he gets because these are people. Okay, Mr. Fear, Mr. Story, right? Mr. Blankenship. These were people whose names were spoken in hushed, revered tones. These were senior.
Especially Angie Blankenship. Angie Blankenship was with David Miscavige like all the time.
Exactly. Right below Miscavige. I mean, full on in his inner circle, running these ideal orgs. These were the kingpins of Scientology, and they operated out of an office in Pac. And they ran all these ideal orgs, and and management didn't run the ideal orgs. They did.
Yeah, and then they
end up in the galley.
Yeah, well, no, they didn't end up in the galley. They came to the HGB, and they were working out of the HGB for like, I don't know, a year or something. And then when Sydney opened, they all went to Sydney, and then they went to Kaohsiung, and they did Kaohsiung, and then
that's in Taiwan.
Yeah, and then something happened there. Because they all came back and they were all in trouble. They were all busted.
After Taiwan?
After they came back from Taiwan.
Interesting.
And I don't know what happened there.
Okay.
Something happened. They all came back and they were all in trouble. And and then they were around for like a few weeks. And then they all disappeared back up at the end.
Went to the hole?
There was no more ideal org unit. Like,
wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So then after that, there was... Actually, maybe before them, there was Lawrence Stumpke and Bob Wright.
Yes.
Office.
Yes.
Senior designer.
That's right. I remember those.
They were
names.
running the landlord office, and then for a few years, and I was very knew what they were doing because I was servicing them all the time. And then one day they just disappeared.
Just gone.
They disappeared, and they blew together.
Oh, is that what happened? They both just took off.
Yeah.
Good for them.
They blew. And
wow.
I think they came, they didn't come back, but they somehow got recovered to flag and got some sort of handling of flag. Now they're just out.
Okay.
I don't think they're out, but they're out.
Out of the Sea Org, at least.
Yeah. And then there was a unit that kind of got formulated in PAC. That's right. Ty Webb.
That's it. Okay.
So then he was running this little unit of little girls in CMO PAC that were like sort of like the ideal, but they weren't like called the ideal org unit. They were the ideal org unit, but for some reason they were doing it from PAC for a long time.
Huh. And this guy Ty Webb was running that office.
Yeah, he was running them directly. Yeah.
Okay.
And then everybody moved over to the HGB.
Yeah.
And he got his own, like half of the 5th floor was his, and blah blah blah.
Wow.
Right? So with his little unit. So then he was running things for a while, and he was like top dog, like everyone kissed his shoes, whatever.
Right.
And I was in the galley, and I was actually doing the cooking for the senior execs and stuff at the time. So then he was added to my thing that I was doing, except he was like more important and whatever, right? And of course the galley had been decimated, so I didn't have a steward. I was the crew steward, I was the exec steward, and I was cooking. I was cooking for the senior execs.
What? And was this decimation a new thing, or was that?
Oh no, that happened all the time. That happened
just routinely.
Like I would end up with people that got busted or whatever, and then they'd start doing better, and it's like they were just taken away.
Right. The galley is like.
Or I'd end up with people who decided they didn't want to be in the steward anymore, and they would just leave, and it was like, okay, well, what do we? HCO was like, well, you lost them,
right?
Type of thing. So then I would end up by myself doing everything. Literally, like the food would come, I was still cooking for the execs. I'd put the crew food out, and this whole thing, right? It was nuts. It was totally nuts.
Wow.
So then, and I somehow still kept everything together for a long time. So then I was cooking for him, and I undercooked something that he didn't even end up eating. It's not even like he had like an adverse reaction to it or anything bad happened, but he noticed that it was a little bit undercooked. So I got in so much trouble Oh my God, I got in so much trouble after doing that sort of thing for like years, never having anything go wrong, anything bad happen, nothing for anybody I ever did. I ever made food for,
Right.
serviced or anything, right? Doing that for years, practically perfectly. This one little thing, right? And I got a ComEv, and then I actually ended up with like another. I ended up with a cook, with a chef from Flag, actually, which was good. It ended up being good, but the way it was done was very not pleasant.
Let me ask you, this bust sounds par for the course with Scientology.
Yeah.
I mean, Sea Org, you don't have any laurels to rest on,
Yeah.
really. They never really give you credit, you know. You don't really, that whole cockon thing, it's all a bunch of crap.
So I did something, so I was perfect for like years, and then one little thing that didn't even actually have like, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, nope, sorry.
You're out of here.
Yeah.
So during the time that you had serviced these 3 different versions of an ideal org unit, or this special managers who were doing the top most important priority management in Scientology, is what we could sort of say.
Yeah.
This went on for years. You're in and out of these people's lives, I guess, or hearing and overseeing whatever they're saying and doing in terms of the food service.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Did you ever see the human side of these people? Did you ever see did they have doubts, fears, concerns about their own position? Or was it because outside of their office, us lowly peons around them who were at their whim, would again speak of them in revered tones and, you know, oh, Mr. Stories, so cool. Oh my God. It was almost like celebrity worship. It was really quite odd.
Yeah.
And I came off the RPF seeing this and thinking, what? You know, after the RPF, nobody impressed me. Because when you do an RPF for 3 years with people who used to be at INT,
right,
you realize anybody's vulnerable. The axe could come down on anyone. And that was one of the things I came out of the RPF knowing. You, I'm sure, experienced that as well, right? From from a services point of view, you realize you're in this position of low rank, but you realize the 0 to hero happens every other week. So, you know, the hero to zero, right? So you're like, anybody's vulnerable with this, right? So I'm just kind of wondering, you know, in terms of who these people were behind the scenes, were they just regular Joes too?
They were just regular people, and actually most of them were very nice people. Like for example, somebody who stayed the entire time, she just stayed with it, was the COCMO Carrie Ibert. Yeah. And she was there during all of these different people going this way, that way. She was just always there. And she was just she's very real. She was very like down to earth, a very real person. You can just talk to her and she would say things to me sometimes. She'd be like, yeah, these people are driving me crazy. Or she just like make different comments to me sometimes that I thought were funny.
Right. So you saw a more human side to some of these folks.
Exactly. And they were actually very nice. The only one who was a total jerk was Ty Webb. Okay. And he would just purposely try to like put you off balance. Okay. And I'm sure she was just emulating what David Miscavige would do to people. You know what I mean? Because I always felt uncomfortable around him, and not like anyone else I could just like approach and whatever, right? And he would just purposely try to put you off balance.
That's fun. That's a very great observation, because I ran into that same phenomenon with the int execs. Yeah. Prior, right? Years prior, back when there were int execs. Yeah. In the 90s, and they would come down to PAC, and they had a lot of presence. These were senior Scientology, like Ronnie Miscavige, Guillermo. I mean, you know, the IMEC, the International Management Executive Committee, right? So you had services exec int and quality exec int, and these people, right? And these were senior people, and these were people whose job it was to set the trend for their zone, their area, right? Services. Yeah. For all of Scientology. And here they are talking to you, right? Here I am, this West US tech guy, one part of their big picture. Yeah. And so I'm intimidated and I'm impressed and I want to impress them. I want to make a good impression. And you could tell the difference between the truly nice, kind of had their shit together kind of people versus the Ty Webbs, because the executives who would come down, and we say come down, meaning they drive over from Int, they went out of their way to chill you out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They'd see that you were uncomfortable, or they'd see that you were tense or freaked out, and they'd be like, dude, chill. It's okay. Yeah. You're not in trouble. Yeah. It's all good. I'm just here to get data, or let's go on this inspection or what. And I could actually create a friendly kind of line with them. Right. And that was my relationship with management. Then they disappeared. Right. They were the first ones to disappear, was IMEC, right? They just were all gone. That's right. And you didn't know who was holding these jobs or where they were. And EDN had disappeared. And you were just like, what? Yeah. About 98, 99. And then, of course, we know all the answers now. But at the time, we didn't know anything about a hole or what was going on at Int or all that. But then you had guys like Jenny DeVach or Ty Webb who would come down. And they were all about their power. Yeah. And I guess that's what you ran into with him. Yeah. And I even talked to Jenny. Really? Many times, because she was her and Mark Yeager came and started doing a project. There started being like a series of projects in OSA to handle major PR, whatever, right? Nobody was briefed on what they were doing, but I sort of knew because I was servicing them, and then I would hear things and whatever, right? Yeah. So there started being a major these projects, and there was like, first it was Hansuli, Stali, Marion Powell, Mike Sutter. It was those three started. They were the first ones. And then it was Tommy Davis and Jessica. And then it was sort of Mark Yeager and Jenny. But then after a while, them being there a while and then being treated sort of like senior executive type people and whatever, right? After a while, I was told by the DUR-INR, OSA Int, they are not senior executives and they're not to be treated like that. They're not to sit in that area and blah, blah, blah. And they're just regular OSA staff. Wow. Wow. Yeah, so and these were mucky mucks. These were guys who had been, Mark Yeager was on the ship with Hubbard. Yeah. This guy's lifelong he's been like hardcore. He's been like WDC chairman, and that's right. He's done everything. That's right. And including, by the way, spending about, I think, half a year digging shit out of the gold pond because he tried to stand up to Miscavige one day, and he got slapped back into place. Hard. Those two were actually pretty nice to me, but Jenny DeVach was nice to you. Yeah, Jenny DeVach assaulted me. Oh, she did. Yeah. Like, I mean, literally. The first time I met her, actually, I was in PAC. I was over in PAC doing something, and she was doing the CMO PAC project, marching around with people around PAC. Was that summer of 96? That was, I think so, yeah. That was Hell Summer. Yeah. Yeah, that was the ethics. Summer. That was the ethics the mission project, yes. Right? Yeah. Yeah, that was handle Slack PAC. That's what she came down saying. Wow. You guys are, you know what we call you up lines? We call you guys Slack PAC. There were declares and RPF assignments daily. Oh my God. From her. Wow. Yeah, she came down. She came down totally channeling Miscavige. I mean, completely. Wow. And I was in a room after she had done all the yelling and screaming, and everybody had run out, and I was hiding in a corner, and I didn't get out. And she starts laughing. Like, everybody leaves, and then it's just them. Yeah. And they all start laughing. They're just laughing at us. They just thought it was hilarious after that they could like yelling at you? That they could come down and terrorize us. And and then they just laughed. They just thought it was hilarious how we were scouring, what was the word they used? It was like scattering like rats. Yeah. They just thought it was funny. Wow. And so and then later in that mission, like about 2 weeks later, I screwed up on something, I did a perfectly normal thing. And she got all pissed off. I mean, really pissed. and grabbed me and started shaking me and slapping me around.
Oh my God.
Like literally slapping me around, right? I'd never been assaulted before that. I'd been pushed around a little bit, but not like that. And Jenny DeVach was always the one who did that to me, you know? And so I never had a kind word
I knew
for
she
her.
could be pretty nasty to people. And I was kind of like intimidated by her at first, but she was always
nice.
Always nice to me. So.
That's very interesting. That's very,
but
and
I
know people
I never
change.
dealt with her in any other way other than being like a service person for her. So it's like,
so it's different.
Yeah. They're not going to, it's a totally different flow.
Yeah. Very true.
Totally different flow.
Very true.
So,
well, like I said, she was channeling Miscavige.
Right.
I mean, she came down there and she was on a mission and she was there to get things done. And those things involved kicking people's ass and taking names. That was what she was there on. And so I was just another ass to kick, you know, but it was, so maybe it wasn't personal, but it sure as hell was to me, you know? So, so that was my experience of her, but please go on. Cause this is fascinating. So what else did you run into?
Who else was I? Yeah. So what was I talking about? I was talking about the different
ideal org units and the people.
So then that unit, the unit under Ty Webb went pretty strong from, they kind of started around the time when LA org, became a Sea org, which was in 2014.
Okay.
Which that's why I think that Sydney date is weird because that was, whatever.
I don't know.
Whatever. But
sometimes memory is a little funny too.
Yeah, but I know that LA org was in 2014 because it was right after Golden Age of Tech 2, which was 2013.
Yep.
It was right after that.
Yep.
And it was funny because you'd have like these, I noticed this after the basics release and after the basics release and after Golden Age of Tech 2. So you'd have these like huge releases that were like, oh, so awesome, so great. Everything's going to be so great. And then a few months after, you'd have like the freaking axe come down. Like, you guys aren't doing it and you guys suck. And, you know, you're not doing the Golden Age of knowledge.
Yep.
And then you'd have like, you know, everyone stay up for years selling basics and.
Well, that was when the whole call center insanity happened.
Yeah, that was when the entire HGB became a call center. Yep. Everybody was on it, including all of OSA. And during that time was when my whole thing was going on with my mom. So then nobody had talked to me about it for like a long time because nobody was on post.
Wow.
They were all doing that everywhere. There was no auditing going on. Nobody was going on course. Nobody was doing anything. Everybody was on the phone for like months and months.
Yeah.
Just doing that, not doing anything else.
Right. And the same thing was going on down in PAC.
Yeah.
See, and that was when I was on the RPF. So we built the call center.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
But I was thanking my lucky
probably
stars.
Built our call center too. No.
Well, in a way, kind of.
Yeah.
In a way, I was thankful that I was on the RPF during that time because being a crew member was actually worse.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know,
it was
at least we were getting
really,
7 hours sleep a night.
Yeah. They were going at like 5, 6 in the morning, coming back at 9 a.m. We're not going at all.
It was insane.
Every single night. And I only got out of it because I was in the galley. I had to do physical work and whatever. And so I wasn't really on that schedule. I was a few times I would stay because the entire crew were staying and I would stay a little bit. But I wasn't generally on that. But then, I should back up actually. Before I need to back up on my mom's story a little bit.
Oh, sure.
So that was, so she came in 2007. So then I was doing auditing and doing whatever after that, talking to her, trying to handle her. And then the whole anonymous thing happened.
Yes.
And she got connected to Anonymous.
Okay. So now we're in 2008.
Yeah, this is still 2008.
Yeah.
Sorry,
okay.
I forgot about this part. So, so then she gets connected to Anonymous and OSA finds out that there's a press release written by, was that written by Graham Barry? I think it was written by Graham Barry. Pretty sure it was.
He's a lawyer who takes on a lot of cases against Scientology. Graham's a good guy. He's a lawyer in LA.
I'm pretty sure that was written by him. But so he wrote this press release after talking to my mom, and the idea was that they were going to read this press release, and my mom was coming to LA with one of the Anonymous protests, and they were going to read this outside the HGB. And OSA found this out, right? And so then I got on the phone with my mom. I'm like, you're not doing this. You're not doing this. You're not doing this. You're not doing this. Hi, you're not doing this. So then finally, after like hours of talking to her, she finally agreed. She's like, okay, fine. I'll tell him not to do it. So they didn't do it. And then she's like, but I'm coming anyway to LA. And I'm like, I don't want to see you. And then those people were like, no, maybe you should talk to her, try to handle her or whatever. So then she ended up coming to LA. And I met her. I spent a day with her, with somebody from OSA, at the Getty Center, talking to her, trying to handle her.
Wow.
For like a whole day. And that didn't really, she sort of chilled out a little bit.
But she knew too much.
Yeah, she really did. So it really didn't go the way I wanted it to go, but she was glad to see me and whatever. Right. And then, that whole thing happened, and the anonymous protest happened, but she wasn't part of it because she was with me. So then, anyways.
Interesting. Just another step on that.
Just another aspect.
Well, I have to admire your mom's perseverance. I really do. I mean, she clearly loves you.
Yeah, she really persisted. I mean, the first like intervention type thing, really, I don't feel that it sort of got things started, but at the same time, it really shook me up a lot for years, because I had to make a decision between her and staying in Scientology. And I was so in Scientology and in the Sea Org that I was like, no, I'm not leaving.
Right.
And unfortunately, I wasn't close enough to her to be like, oh yeah, I'm not going to disconnect from it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was a little bit rough.
Right.
So.
Okay.
But whatever.
So fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So, but at least there were efforts being made.
Yeah.
Now we fast forward back to the Thai web thing and ideal orgs and LA org transfers to Sea Org.
So that was in 2014.
Yeah.
And they did this. They were doing this went on for like a week, and nobody knew what was going on, but there was like people disappearing all over the place. Okay. Right. And you didn't know who was going to go next. It was like everybody from like the highest, aid post and FB guy that was just like trained up for this post. And this is like, he's gone. And everybody was just going, and you didn't know where they were going, but they were going to pack for whatever. And there's something happening in pack. And then a few weeks later, they opened up, they opened up the org with all Sea Org. Right. So some people went to replace people in pack to go to LA org. Some people just went because, somebody was trying to get them out of the HCB for ages and couldn't quite figure out how to get them out. So they just said, here, you can have these guys too.
Fuck out of here. You're out of here. Yeah. Been trying to get rid of you for years, you scumbag. So, okay. Los Angeles Church of Scientology, the Church of Scientology Los Angeles, was classically a Class 5 org, which means it was staffed by people who were committed to a 2.5 or 5 year contract. This conversion changes all of that and makes LA Day and Foundation combine into a single unit called the Los Angeles Church of Scientology, and now it's all Sea Org, and Sea Org are full-time. They're just there all the time. So this was a huge change, structurally, systematically for this organization. And LA organization is not only the place where you get clears and auditors for LA, but it's also known as the Continental Org, which means it's a model org for all the other orgs. It's supposed to be the model you follow. Oh, you look to LA org for how to do it. Yeah. And they made it a Sea Org, which you can't do in all the other orgs. And so it's kind of like automatically they're cutting that strategy off at the knees. But then what was the reason given for why the change? It was just out of nowhere.
Why did they become Sea Org?
Yeah. What did they...
I don't remember what exactly...
Because I never did hear what the reason was for it that they gave.
I guess because, they've been trying to get LA Org going for forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like even when I first joined, when I was first in the Sea Org, I went on a mission in LA Org as part of an overall mission, getting LA Org to St. Hill size with John Woodruff as the ED. And LA Org suddenly became St. Hill size because they made $200,000 in a week, and they were declared St. Hill size for that. but they've been trying to get LA Org going for so long, and they just could not get it going.
Yeah.
It was always messed up. It
Yep.
was always just messed up. So I guess somebody decided that that's it. It's going to become Sea Org, so we can be in total control of the staff, and they're there all the time, and you're not going to be losing staff as much, and they're not going to be, I guess they're supposedly not going to be as crim as the non-Sea Org staff. We'll get to that in a few minutes.
Yes, we will. See, Hubbard classically calls Los Angeles the most criminal city on the planet.
Yeah.
Says it's awful. Says Los Angeles, California. California's crazy, and Los Angeles is just the most criminal place ever. So criminality, infiltration, and subversion are words that are connected with LA Org in the early 80s, when the FBI raid had happened in the 70s, and Hubbard was on a paranoid, manhunt for all the infiltrators and people who were sabotaging Scientology internally. This was a huge thing and part of the whole blow up then. And so LA Org had always had this kind of reputation for this. And it was never.
There's an L. Ron Hubbard eval on LA Org.
Yes,
there's
and
advices and all sorts of things specifically on LA Org.
That's right. And so,
Were you
and he
around
talks
when
about
we
that.
had to memorize the LA Org strategy? That's like a paragraph long. Do you remember that?
I do. I don't remember the strategy, but I remember memorizing a lot of crap like that.
To make LA Org the premier org.
I
anyway,
do.
I
Premier
memorized
model
the whole
org.
strategy.
Yeah, I know they said model org or premier. Yeah, premier org. But that whole thing was supposed to be a thing. So the point that we're setting up here, of course, is that LA Org, Sea Org or not, and it converted to Sea Org, was always supposed to be this model. And so it had to be this booming standard place, and they could never make it that way. Yeah. And they always blamed the factors that Hubbard would bring up, the criminality and the this and the that, ignoring the fact that the criminality is rife throughout all of Scientology. But we won't worry about that right now. So this was an effort to make this model org, and this was the place where they would pull executives and staff from other churches.
That's right.
To come to LA. This was LA Org's claim to fame, is that this is where they would pull, they being management. Management would pilot new programs and new ideas, and let's try this and let's try that in LA Org. And then if it seemed like it was working or successful, which it hardly ever was, but if it seemed like it was, they would pull staff and train them there, apprentice them there, and then they would go back to their orgs and do what they learned. Well,
yeah, like running people's credit cards without their permission, right?
Exactly, as we were talking about recently.
We'll get to that.
Yes.
So LA Org happened, and a whole lot of people were taken from the ILO for that.
Yep.
And then that whole thing happened. They opened and they were running, and then shortly after that was when the Ideal Org unit and Ty Webb moved over to the HGB, right? So that he could do that the same, not the same thing as LA Org, but so he could oversee management from where management is being done, basically.
Right.
So that was a whole thing, and they moved over there, and and I was still doing what I was doing, right? And I mean, things pretty much rolled whatever for the next 3 years or something. So I think they came over in like 2015, 2006, maybe it was end of 2015 or something like that. They came, and then my thing happened in like 2017. Yeah, it was 2017 when or 2016, 2017, I think. Yeah. When I like undercooked his food and I got all this stuff happened, right?
Okay, yeah.
I didn't really it was weird because I didn't get taken off post, but it was like I think what I brought up was, I needed to like do some sort of handling with my grandmother because she kept bringing up my mom and telling me what was going on with my mom, and she was really, I found out how much of a go-between she was in this past year, because my mom was like, yeah, I was telling her to call you and check on you all the time, so I knew how you were doing.
Of course.
Which is great. It's like, my grandmother was great, but she wouldn't say that, like, she wouldn't say like, my mom, your mom wanted me to check on you, she would
course.
just talk to me. But she would tell me about her. So I kind of like, you know, I was PTS or whatever. So then I brought that up as a thing. Like, I obviously need to handle that. And it was like, well, if you don't handle this, you're going to be demoted to a lower echelon. And that was basically what the comment said.
Right.
So in conditions and whatever. Right. So then I did that. And then end of, I'm trying to think if there's anything else significant that happened during that time. I mean, the only other thing was Chantel coming to be in the Catholic.
Right.
And that was like 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like 2018.
Okay.
When she came over.
And that was pretty serious bust because she was the commanding officer CMO
Yeah.
PAC.
Yeah.
So she was pretty
Yeah.
hardcore busted
Yeah.
there.
And she was pretty not happy. for a
Yeah, I'll
while.
bet.
And I actually became really good friends with her. She was a good person.
Yeah.
Tried to look out for her. She's a supervisor now, actually. Not supervisor trained. She's a supervisor at ILO.
Some people you just wish they'd come out. She's
yeah.
one of them. I would love to see her out.
Yeah, there's quite a few people I've known for like, you know, the entire time I was in the series that I was like, great, I'm not going to talk to these people anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then 2009, no, end of 2018 was when AOSH Africa was opening.
Okay.
And that was December 2018. And basically there was like 200 Sea Org members that got sent over for that.
And where did they get plucked from?
They got plucked from the ILO, a lot from Flag.
Yeah.
Some from PAC, some from other areas, but a lot from Flag. A lot of people were like trained at Flag specifically for that. And they had they had like a whole complement of people.
Right.
So they went right before Christmas, like mid-December 2018.
Okay.
So then, and of course, Ty Webb went over there to establish everything, and he went there with like several ideal org unit people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a bunch of other people went. So then, the end of, and he was there for a while. I mean, he actually never came back. So
he just got sent to Africa.
Yeah. So then, but this is what happened. So end of end of January 2019, suddenly there was like something going on that was really big. I never got the specifics until I came out, right?
Mm.
I mean, I actually got a story from somebody while I was in Columbus who got a story from someone else. And I was like, wow, that's what happened, really? But there was this whole financial blow up, right?
Yes.
Because supposedly there was this whole, I mean, not supposedly, but there was this whole thing implemented starting in LA org.
Yep.
Where they would have, they would have somebody specifically working on getting extra credit for people so they could pay. And there was like different things being done like that. And like, or people being regged to pay for other people's services and all this like funky shit going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So somehow, I don't know exactly something blew up and all of this just came to light.
Yep.
Because nobody knew, right? Right, nobody knew. I'm sure it was all over.
Well,
data
apparently...
files. I'm sure it was all over data files.
Well, it probably was,
Yeah.
but what I'm told by another person who had some insider knowledge on this is that Miscavige didn't actually know what the chase wave was all about. And so he saw the booming stats at a LA org and thought they're going great.
Oh yeah,
guns.
they were making
They're
like
doing
200,000, 300,000.
That's right. And they were delivering auditing
and then
and
this whole
making
thing
clears.
came up. This whole thing came up with the public being regged to do objectives in the HTC instead of doing SRD because they'd be regged for intensives in the HTC to make more money.
More money.
Instead of doing the SRD and twinning up with somebody and doing the whole course, right? And that was actually what was brought up to us in a briefing as being like the biggest problem.
Oh, that's interesting because what was communicated to me was that Miscavige came down and did an inspection. And he finally saw it with his own 2 eyes.
That probably happened in PAC. I think that happened in PAC because a lot of people from the ILO were over in PAC for like weeks and weeks and doing various things and like.
Well, apparently he removed all the regs overnight.
Yeah.
The Sea Org Regs.
We did.
Like,
yeah.
And that happened that day.
A lot of other people too.
Oh yeah.
A lot of other people.
Oh, tell me what happened.
Okay, so, I mean, there were people in the Ideal Org unit that were busted. There was like the senior INR int was removed. The senior PCO int was removed.
For putting the crims in there in the first place, or
exactly,
what was the reasoning?
Because this the Ideal Org unit had put this new senior HCO unit in place in the ILO, and a lot of those people were in LA Org, were staff in LA Org while that was happening. So then they were busted,
right?
And then all of the missionaires were pulled from all over the world.
Oh, okay.
All the missionaries were brought in. And they were either, I mean, any of the ILO missionaries were just like immediately on the decks. CLO missionaries were on the decks in PAC.
Really?
A lot, like they all got busted. And it was very arbitrary because some of them got like, ComEv, declared a tiger, stuff like that. And some of them were like sort of okay and just did conditions. And it was just various levels of like in trouble, right, depending on what mission they were on and what happened and everything.
Being declared a tiger is a label in Scientology. It's hardly ever talked about, where you're no longer qualified to hold any executive position ever again. You have screwed up so badly that this label is put on you. You're a tiger, and no one's ever going to allow you to be an executive anymore. You're always going to be at a lower level post.
Yeah. So that happened, and
interesting. I didn't know about the missionaries being pulled.
Oh yeah, all the missionaries were pulled.
So there was
no missions out in the orgs for like months and months. All the missionaries were pulled out.
Wow.
So there was nothing happened for a while, and they were all on the decks, like in the ILO. They were on the decks for like months and months. And then what happened was, and of course, Ty Webb never came back, and nobody talked about him coming back. Nobody talked about any of that. It was like, okay. And then there was another, and then there was another person from RTC who came in that was like total, like sort of like top dog type person. That was, she used to be, I met her in PAC when she was the RTC rep PAC, and she was, Ann Rathbun.
Oh my God.
But not Ann Rathbun.
No, used to be married to Marty Rathbun.
She had a different last name than
I.
So she was there
came in.
Yeah, she was there running things for a while.
Oh, and interesting.
That was a big deal. She was like,
yeah.
But anyway. She actually wasn't bad. I never really met her. She never came to the dining room. She just ate in her office and whatever.
Huh.
But that was like a huge deal. Like the RGC rep ILO didn't like eat for like weeks. I barely saw her. Everybody was in trouble. Everybody was in trouble. Literally, like everyone was in trouble.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, it's from hearing about this from others and putting pieces together and including everything you're telling me right now, which makes it actually even bigger. I was told the Regs came off post.
A lot of people came off post.
This is interesting. A lot of people
came off post, and then what happened was they pulled everybody, and then they started doing these. They started putting people in finance, like taking like super qualified people. When my junior happened to be one of them, so I lost another person. Saying, "Oh well, you don't really need an executive steward because blah blah blah." Whatever. Anyway, so I ended up doing all the work again. That was great. So.
Yeah. Do you sense a pattern here? I hope you do, because this is how it runs all the time. But this was major, and in fact, more major than I think anything we've seen in Scientology's history before.
Yeah. No, this was the most major thing I've seen. And being at the level I was, I basically, aside from seeing things that happened in INT, because obviously I was never in INT, and I didn't really know what was going on there, but but you know more that's going on because you're closer to those people, and you hear things or you don't hear things like when all management up lines like an INT got busted, we just suddenly, you didn't hear from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't hear from anyone. Like there was one day, like for example, I was in data and I used to run the stat evolution, and we used to have these direct sort of like a chat room type thing with int data. And we had that every Thursday. We'd be talking to people, like there was 2 computers set up and talking about various things in stat evolution. And one day we just didn't have it anymore. Nobody talked to us. Right. Nobody talked, and we didn't hear from anybody.
Wow.
Everybody just disappeared.
Do you remember around when? I'm just curious.
That was 2000, I think it was 2002.
Oh, wow. Early on.
Yeah.
See, because that's when the whole starts up in earnest, is around that time.
Yeah. So I'm sure a bunch of people just got.
And it's interesting how, you see the devastation that happened at the gold base.
Yeah.
And then you see that devastation happen at the ILO. Then you see that devastation happening in PAC. Yeah. Then you see it happening worldwide because of this chase wave thing and the response to that.
Yeah, it happens over and over. It's like it's a pattern. Like they'll build something up, and you think the things are going, and then all of a sudden it's like a total flap, and those guys were assholes, and get rid of them.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And that happened over and over and over. And I was just like, whoa, okay.
Well,
there they go again.
Exactly. and it seems to me, and you tell me if this seems right, it seems to me a reflection of a reactionary style of management, you could say, that comes from the very top.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, because you're dealing with people, like Ty Webb. Senior PCO ain't making decisions about where that guy is.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, RTC is, David Miscavige is, So there's certain postings and positions and things that happen.
Yeah, because he put all of LA Org there.
Right.
So how could he not know about any of that?
Well, see, that's the weird thing.
You know what I mean?
It's a very weird thing. Maybe I only think that there's plausible deniability. I'm not saying for sure he didn't know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me that how it was communicated to me is he comes down for an inspection, sees with his own 2 eyes right in front of him this credit card fraud be taken up, and goes, Miscavige ain't the smartest, light. He ain't the brightest bulb. But I'm pretty sure he recognizes credit card fraud when he sees it.
Yeah.
And apparently Sea Org members don't. And so he just, because of the pressure and the demand, LA Org was under the gun. Yeah. And if these Sea Org members who came from all over didn't produce, they were fucked, and they knew it.
Right.
And so they resort to the criminality, boom the stats, because it's easy in a short term to make a lot of money if you just say screw the system.
Yeah.
They do that, but in doing so, completely threaten the tax exemption of the Church of Scientology.
Yeah. So this is
which is his big baby.
Yeah. So fast forwarding a little bit on that, what I was told. Okay, I was told this from just a totally random person, random Sea Org member, actually a pretty new Sea Org member, but really, really bright guy, who got it from somebody who was in CELO East US. And I don't know how he got it, but he somehow found out things he wasn't supposed to find out all the time. He heard that, okay, this whole thing happened with credit card fraud and whatever, the whole Chase thing. So he heard that David Miscavige went to the CEO of Chase. Did you hear this story?
No.
I don't know if this is true. This is just what I heard from someone else who got it from someone else. So apparently he went to the CEO of Chase and said, look, we fucked up. And I'm fixing it. And I'm handling these people, removing these people from their positions, whatever. I'm fixing it. And we just want to not have this go
any further,
have this blow up. So we just want to make a agreement, deal, whatever he did to not have it blow up. And they're like, okay, well, you can't use Chase anymore. And that's why you can't use Chase anymore. Right. Nobody can use Chase.
Right. Right.
So I don't know how true that is.
I believe it. And I'll tell you why. And there's a very specific and singular reason I believe this, which is that after hearing about this whole thing, I contacted a lawyer friend of mine, right, who's a federally trained, lawyer, and I said to him, this Chase wave, I talked about, what was going on, and that Miscavige had acted to, remove all these regs and stuff like that, and I said, what are we looking at here? And he said, legally speaking, because he acted with speed and authority to remove and reorganize and bust all these people, even in the slipshod, half-assed bullshit way he does it.
Yeah.
Because he did that, upon learning of this, he's probably not legally exposed, and the Church of Scientology is not legally exposed because they acted with such ferocity. So he might have dodged a bullet there.
Yeah.
And that might be why, you know, in his fumble bumble, you know, dumbass approach to things, because David Miscavige is I'm just not impressed at this point.
Yeah.
You know, I've tried to be. I've paid a lot of attention over the years since leaving to his moves, to what's going on, to how Scientology has operated under his leadership.
Yeah.
And it has been a, you know, other than strong arming the IRS into getting tax exemption back.
Yeah.
There is nothing he's done that has created any lasting
and
positive impression.
Exactly. And he just bullshits the staff full time, the staff and the public full time in the events. Like, for example, when I was in data, I used to do event data collection for the events all the time. Oh, yes.
Right? Please talk about that.
And I used to collect, mostly it was like raw data, like statistics and like send up raw data on statistics or stories and photographs and stuff that they'd use as part of an overall thing. But there was one time specifically when they were, David Miscavige was at the shrine drilling the event, and IMPR staff were out. This was when IMPR used to do it. Now S&P does it, but IMPR were at the shrine, and they were like putting together the speeches and finalizing everything. And I was asked to get some data from the org in Denmark, where supposedly there was some government official who had come in the org and started a course, right? And so I bent over backwards and, like, you know, woke somebody up in Denmark, got the FR to bicycle over to this guy. Anyway, there's this whole like ridiculous story how I got this, right? And within like an hour. And I got the data to the person at IMPR, and it turned out the guy actually hadn't started the course, right? I'm like, I'm sorry, he didn't actually start. And they're like, oh, okay, thanks for getting the data. And so, of course, when I watched the event, I specifically paid attention to that. And he says the guy starts.
Yep.
He said, oh yeah, this whole story that I'm like, where did that come from? I didn't say that. I'm the one who got the information.
Right.
And then I even asked somebody from IMPR afterwards. I said, I didn't report that because I felt weird about it. I'm like, oh, great. So somebody told him or whatever. I don't know what happened. Someone either told him, like, bullshitted him, or he just decided he was going to say that or whatever. But I'm like, but it really got me thinking. I'm like, I wonder how many other things like that are just like changed and just to make it sound better and just to make it sound cool. And
well, we happen to know about a great number of those things.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I heard a lot about. I think I watched this one video of you and Mark where you were talking about the events.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I can totally see that being done.
Oh yeah. Because
you hear all this great stuff in the events, and then you go out to some of these orgs and you're like, where are the people?
Exactly.
And then when you're in a class 5 org, working class 5 org, like I was in Columbus, and you have S&P coming to do shoots and arranging, you know, taking staff and putting them in the course room and doing all this stuff to make it look like there's all these people.
Yep.
Or right after the org opens in Columbus, you have somebody from a TV station come with someone else from S&P, like to do like a tour, and you have like, and they take the staff and they sit them down in the I'm sorry, what do you call it? Where you in Div 6 where you
in the AV areas, in the public intro
to make
areas.
It look like there's a bunch of public.
Yeah, exactly.
To this TV
there's
person,
stage.
it's
stage
like
photos.
totally okay.
Yeah. Of course. And they'll justify it by showing you LRH policy that says to do that.
Yeah.
And yet it doesn't totally say to do that, but you can twist it to make it say that, where you can just totally fake something that has no reality to it whatsoever. And that's what they do all the time, right? They do that with the VMs. They do that with the ideal orgs. They do that with Flag and the Superpower building. Yeah. They show you this picture of the Superpower building with like 30 or 40 people walking through the lobby area. And then you go there.
And it's empty, right?
It's crickets, man. There's nobody there, you know? And that monstrosity of a building, I mean, it just swallows everybody up. Yeah. So it's just PR 101 with these guys, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I hate to do this because there is more, so much more to your story. But we've been at this for 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Wow. Really doesn't feel like it.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to chop.
We're gonna pause. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to chop, right? And we're going to do a part 2, right? And we'll arrange that.
Okay, good.
Because I want to hear all about Columbus.
Okay, good.
I want to hear all about it, right? And I want to know all about all this other stuff and your escape too, because that's a bit of a dramatic story, and it's always fun to hear how people get the hell out, right? And you did.
Yeah,
and
I was almost like hesitant to say exactly what I did. I'm like, oh, they're just gonna come down on people.
Well, you know
what I mean. But
yeah,
I don't know what to say. It happens. So
the thing about Scientology is it's always worse than you think.
Yeah.
There is no bottom. And it takes a while to kind of really get what that means. Yeah. But it's a process. You know what I mean? So so your escape story is actually going to help more people than it's going to.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, because that's part of the way I got out was I started looking things up. I started watching things from other people, and I'm just like, what the fuck? You know? What's going on here? Exactly. I want to find out from the other side what's going on. So. Right.
And you did.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Found
good.
out a lot of stuff.
Exactly. All right, folks. So I'm sorry to, it's just, there's a lot to tell.
Yeah.
Especially
after 26 years.
Right.
I probably have more stories too.
Exactly. I'm sure stuff will brew up as we're going. Yeah. And note them down. Yeah. We will talk about them, because there's, it's always interesting. It's always interesting connecting dots. And I did a show last Friday where I talked about the Chase Wave thing. I talked about David Miscavige, but now adding this more bits about how the whole Ideal Org units were pillaged and destroyed, and a bunch of other staff were taken off. That's new information for me, and very useful to connecting all the dots. Because there's your story and your picture and your escape, which is awesome. And then there's the bigger picture. Yeah. And the bigger picture seems to indicate right now, and I don't know if you know this or not, and I'll just end with this, is it looks like it's kind of running right over a cliff right now. Yeah. And I have never been. Especially
with all the COVID stuff.
Right.
And all the protocols they did because of COVID.
That's right.
Oh my God.
Which we will talk about from your perspective, because I want to know that. Yeah. I've gotten other perspectives, and I very much want yours, because you lived it at the org level. So we're going to get all that, and we won't take a long time. We'll get it next week. Okay. But it looks very much like, this guy is screwing up so hard right now that this thing is just going right off a cliff. Yeah. And I've just never been
with this new lawsuit that came out.
Exactly. And the Masterson case coming up in August. Yeah. We don't know what the exposure will be there, but it's certainly, no matter what, everybody knows Danny Masterson is a Scientologist. Yeah. Everybody knows that. And he's about to get screwed, right? And a well-deserved screwing, because Danny Masterson's not a good guy. So I want to thank you for coming over here, for taking this time. I really appreciate it. And I know they do too.
Okay, good.
Okay. All right, guys. So thanks for sticking with us. This is a long one, and there's, like I said, a lot to tell. So we will have more for you, and we'll have that in the near future. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for inviting us into your home, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.